A few bikers taunt a farmer's daughter, unaware she's the most feared bounty hunter. The morning sun bathed the Turner family's small farmhouse in a warm glow, casting long shadows over the fields that stretched endlessly into the horizon. Anna Turner stood at the edge of the porch, her hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. The scent of earth and hay filled the crisp air, and the distant bleating of sheep added a soothing rhythm to the start of her day. To anyone passing by, Anna was just another farmer's daughter, a simple woman living a quiet, rural life. Her worn boots, calloused hands, and the faded plaid shirt she wore told a story of hard work and humility. But Anna had secrets, buried truths she had vowed never to revisit. "Anna," her father's voice rang out from the barn. "Can you give me a hand with the feed?" "On my way, Dad," she called back, setting her cup on the porch railing. As she strode across the yard, the morning dew clinging to her boots, Anna's sharp eyes scanned the horizon instinctively. It was a habit she had never quite been able to shake, even after leaving behind the life that had honed her instincts. Once, she had been known as Ghost, the most feared bounty hunter in the region. Her skill in tracking, capturing, and neutralizing dangerous fugitives had earned her a reputation that struck fear into the hearts of criminals. But that was years ago, in a different world, a world she had left behind to protect her family and herself. In the barn, her father, John Turner, hoisted a heavy sack of grain over his shoulder, grunting under its weight. Despite his age, John was as sturdy as the beams that supported the barn's roof, his weathered face a testament to years of toil under the sun. "Thanks for coming," he said as Anna stepped inside. "Old man can't do it all by himself anymore." Anna chuckled, grabbing another sack and hoisting it effortlessly. "You're not old, Dad, just stubborn. That's what your mother used to say," John replied with a wry smile, a flicker of fondness crossing his face. "But you know I can't resist putting you to work while you're still here." Anna grinned but said nothing. She loved the simplicity of these moments, working alongside her father, the rhythm of farm life grounding her in a way that her old life never could. After the chores were done, Anna decided to head into town to pick up supplies. The drive was a peaceful one, the dusty road winding through fields of golden wheat and towering oaks. She rolled down the window of her old pickup truck, letting the wind whip through her hair. The town of Mill Creek was small and unassuming, its main street lined with quaint shops and a single diner. Anna parked in front of the general store and stepped inside, her boots thudding softly against the wooden floor. "Morning, Anna," said Mrs. Cartwright, the elderly shopkeeper, from behind the counter. "You're up early." "Morning, Mrs. Cartwright," Anna replied with a polite nod, "just picking up a few things." As Anna browsed the shelves, the bell above the door jingled, signaling new arrivals. The atmosphere shifted as a group of men entered, their heavy boots and leather jackets disrupting the quiet of the store. The air filled with the acrid scent of gasoline and cigarettes. Anna glanced at them briefly, her sharp gaze taking in their tattoos and the patches on their jackets. Iron Reapers MC, bikers. Trouble. They laughed loudly, their voices booming as they grabbed bottles of soda and bags of chips, tossing them carelessly onto the counter. Mrs. Cartwright's hands trembled slightly as she rang up their items, avoiding their leering gazes. "Anything else, sweetheart?" one of the bikers drawled, leaning on the counter. His grin was smug, his tone laced with condescension. "No, that'll be all," Mrs. Cartwright said quietly. Anna's jaw tightened, but she kept her focus on the shelves, pretending not to notice. She had seen their type before, bullies who thrived on intimidation. Her instincts urged her to intervene, but she resisted. This wasn't her fight. Unfortunately, the bikers noticed her. Well, said one of them, a tall man with a scruffy beard and a scar running down his cheek. "What do we have here?" Anna didn't respond, keeping her back to them as she picked up a bag of flour. "Hey, sweetheart, I'm talking to you," he said, his voice louder now. The other bikers laughed, their amusement echoing through the store. Anna turned slowly, her expression calm but cold. "I'm not interested." The biker with the scar stepped closer, his grin widening. "Come on, don't be like that. We're just being friendly." "Your version of friendly doesn't interest me," Anna said evenly, her voice steady. The man's grin faltered, replaced by a flicker of irritation. Before he could respond, another voice cut through the tension. "That's enough," Mrs. Cartwright said firmly, surprising even herself. "Take your things and go." The bikers exchanged glances, then laughed, their bravado masking the sting of being called out by an elderly woman. "We'll see you around, sweetheart," the scarred man said to Anna before turning to leave. Anna watched them go, her heart pounding, not with fear, but with anger. As the roar of their motorcycles faded into the distance, she turned to Mrs. Cartwright. "Are you all right?" Anna asked. Mrs. Cartwright nodded shakily. "I'm fine, dear. But you should be careful. Those men, they're not like the troublemakers we usually get." Anna smiled faintly, her calm exterior betraying nothing of the storm brewing inside her. "Don't worry about me," she said. "I can handle myself." As she loaded her supplies into the truck and drove back to the farm, Anna's mind raced. The bikers were trouble, and trouble had a way of escalating. She had left her old life behind. But if the Iron Reapers were bringing danger to her town, Anna knew she might have to become Ghost again. For now, though, she held on to the quiet, knowing it wouldn't last. The sun was setting as Anna drove her truck back to the farm, the soft glow of dusk casting a serene light over the rolling fields. Yet, despite the tranquil landscape, her thoughts churned uneasily. The bikers she had encountered in town weren't just passing through. She could feel it. Men like them didn't come and go quietly. They left ripples, and often, chaos in their wake. As she pulled into the gravel driveway, her father stepped out onto the porch, wiping his hands on a rag. "You were gone longer than usual," John said, concern flickering in his weathered face. Anna smiled faintly. "Ran into a bit of a crowd in town. Nothing to worry about." John's eyes narrowed slightly. He knew his daughter well enough to sense when she was holding something back, but he decided not to press her. "Well, come on in. Supper's almost ready." Anna followed him inside, the warm, comforting smell of stew wafting from the kitchen. For a moment, the tension in her chest eased. Here, in the small, simple house she had grown up in, the world felt safe. But that feeling didn't last. Later that night, as Anna sat by the window with a book in her lap, a faint rumble in the distance caught her attention. She stilled, her sharp ears picking up the unmistakable growl of motorcycle engines. Setting the book aside, Anna rose and moved to the door, opening it just enough to step onto the porch. The night air was cool, and the cricket's song filled the darkness. But then the sound came again, closer this time. Anna's eyes scanned the road leading to the farm, her senses heightened. A few moments later, twin headlights appeared in the distance, followed by the low, menacing hum of motorcycles. Her jaw tightened as the bikes slowed, their riders coming into view. There were 3 of them. The scarred man from the general store was in the lead, his sneering face lit by the glow of the headlights. Behind him, 2 others flanked him, their jackets bearing the same Iron Reaper's MC patch. "Evening," the scarred man called out, his voice carrying over the stillness. Anna didn't respond, standing motionless on the porch. The bikers pulled to a stop near the edge of the driveway, their engines idling. The scarred man dismounted, his boots crunching against the gravel as he walked a few steps closer. "Didn't think we'd see you again so soon," he said, his tone mockingly friendly. "Thought we'd swing by and say hi, seeing as how you left such a lasting impression earlier." "You've said hi," Anna replied evenly. "Now you can leave." The scarred man smirked, taking another step forward. "Oh, come on, sweetheart. No need to be so cold. We're just passing through, and we thought we'd make some friends." "I'm not interested in making friends," Anna said, her voice sharp. "And this isn't a place for you or your kind." His smirk faded, replaced by a flash of irritation. "You've got a real mouth on you, don't you?" From the porch, Anna heard the creak of the screen door as her father stepped outside. "What's going on here?" John asked, his tone steady but edged with warning. "Nothing to worry about, old man," the scarred man said, his grin returning. "Just having a friendly chat with your daughter." "You've done enough chatting," John said firmly. "I think it's time you move along." The scarred man held up his hands in mock surrender. All right, all right. No need to get all worked up. We're going. He turned back to his bike, but paused, glancing over his shoulder at Anna. See you around, sweetheart. As the bikers rode off into the night, Anna felt her father's gaze on her. What was that about? John asked, his voice low. Nothing, Anna said, though the tension in her shoulders betrayed her words. Just some drifters trying to cause trouble. John frowned. This town doesn't need that kind of trouble. Anna, it won't be a problem, she said, her voice resolute. But as she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that the bikers weren't finished. They had seen her calm exterior, but they hadn't seen what she was capable of. Not yet. The morning dawned gray and cool, with clouds stretching across the horizon like a warning. Anna stood by the barn, a bucket of fresh water in her hands, her sharp gaze scanning the fields as though searching for shadows. The encounter from the previous night lingered in her mind, an itch she couldn't ignore. The Iron Reapers weren't the type to back down. They thrived on intimidation and control. John Turner approached from the chicken coop, his hat pulled low over his forehead. You've been quiet this morning, he remarked, his voice light but probing. Still thinking about those bikers? Anna didn't respond immediately, pouring water into the trough for the sheep. I just don't trust them, she said finally. They're trouble. John nodded, leaning on the fence beside her. That they are. But we've seen trouble come and go before. Folks around here know how to handle it. Anna hesitated, then turned to face her father. These men are different. Dad, they're not just passing through. They're looking for something, or someone, to push around. John studied her, his weathered face unreadable. You think they'll be back? I know they will, Anna said, her voice low and firm. Later that day, Anna drove into town to deliver produce to the local market. The streets of Mill Creek were quiet, as they often were on weekdays. But there was an undercurrent of tension that Anna hadn't noticed before. People were walking quickly, avoiding eye contact, their conversations hushed. At the market, Anna spotted her friend Clara tending to her stall of handmade goods. Clara was a warm, cheerful woman in her 30s, known for her quick wit and sharp tongue. But today, even Clara seemed subdued. Anna, Clara called as Anna approached, her voice brightening slightly. Haven't seen you in a few days. I've been busy at the farm, Anna replied, unloading a basket of apples onto the stall. What's going on here? Everyone seems on edge. Clara glanced around, then leaned closer. It's those bikers, she whispered. The ones with the patches. They've been hanging around town all morning, making people nervous. Where are they now? Anna asked, her voice calm but sharp. Clara gestured toward the diner at the end of the street. Saw a few of them head in there not long ago. They've been stirring up trouble, yelling, messing with people. Anna's jaw tightened. Thanks for letting me know. Be careful, Clara said, her tone serious. Those men aren't playing around. The diner was a small, homey place with checkered curtains and a well-worn counter. Anna pushed open the door, and the bell above it jingled softly. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension. 3 bikers sat at a corner booth, their leather jackets emblazoned with the Iron Reaper's MC insignia. One of them was the scarred man from the general store, Rex. As Anna had overheard one of his companions call him, he lounged back in the booth, a cocky grin on his face as he laughed at something one of the others said. The waitress, a young woman named Jenny, looked visibly uncomfortable as she refilled their coffee cups. Her hands trembled slightly, and she avoided making eye contact with the men. Anna stepped further inside, her boots clicking softly against the tile floor. Rex's eyes flicked toward her, and his grin widened. Well, look who it is, he drawled. Didn't expect to see you here, sweetheart. Anna ignored him, walking calmly to the counter and taking a seat. Jenny approached hesitantly, relief flickering across her face when she saw Anna. Morning, Anna, Jenny said quietly. What can I get you? Just coffee, Anna replied, her tone steady. As Jenny poured the coffee, Rex rose from his booth and swaggered over, his boots thudding against the floor. He leaned casually against the counter beside Anna, his grin smug. You didn't even say hi, he said, feigning disappointment. That's no way to treat a friend. We're not friends, Anna said without looking at him. Rex chuckled, clearly enjoying himself. Come on, sweetheart. No need to be like that. I was just stopping by to see how you're doing. It's not every day you meet someone as interesting as you. Anna turned her head slightly, her sharp eyes locking onto his. If you're looking for trouble, Rex, you found the wrong person. The grin faded from Rex's face, replaced by a flicker of anger. You've got a lot of nerve, talking to me like that. The tension in the diner was palpable. The other bikers watched from the booth, smirking as though they were enjoying the show. Anna didn't flinch. And you've got a lot of nerve coming into this town and thinking you can intimidate people. But I'm not afraid of you, Rex. For a moment, Rex seemed taken aback, as though he hadn't expected such defiance. Then he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a low growl. You should be. Anna's hand moved faster than Rex could react. She grabbed his wrist and twisted, forcing him to step back with a sharp intake of breath. The other bikers stood, but Anna's glare stopped them in their tracks. Careful, she said coolly. You might hurt yourself. Rex yanked his arm free, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. This isn't over, he snarled. He turned and stormed out of the diner, his companions following close behind. The roar of their motorcycles echoed through the street as they sped away. Jenny let out a shaky breath, her shoulders sagging with relief. Thank you, Anna, she said softly. Anna nodded, finishing her coffee in silence. But as she walked back to her truck, her mind was racing. Rex wasn't going to let this go, and Anna knew it was only a matter of time before the Iron Reapers made their next move. The evening air was heavy as Anna stood in the barn, the faint glow of a lantern casting long shadows across the wooden beams. The rhythmic creak of the windmill outside was the only sound as she sharpened an old hunting knife, its blade gleaming in the dim light. Her mind replayed the encounter at the diner, the tension in Rex's voice, and the fury in his eyes when she had stopped him cold. Men like Rex didn't handle embarrassment well, and men like him didn't forget. Anna's father entered quietly, his boots scuffing the straw-covered floor. You've been out here a while, John said, his voice gentle but probing. Anna didn't look up, just making sure everything's ready, she replied, her tone distant. John leaned against a post, his keen eyes studying her. You've been different these last few days. Quieter, more watchful. Anna paused, running her fingers along the blade's edge. They're coming back, she said simply, and I don't plan on being caught off guard. John sighed, crossing his arms. Anna, I don't know what you're planning, but we're not alone in this town. If trouble comes, we'll face it together. You don't have to carry everything on your own. She looked at him then, her sharp, determined gaze meeting his. I know, Dad, but if I don't stop them before they do something worse, someone's going to get hurt. John frowned, the weight of her words settling heavily. You're not just worried about the farm, are you? Anna hesitated, the knife still in her hand. She had never told her father the full truth about her past, not because she didn't trust him, but because she didn't want him to see her differently. But now, the shadows she had tried to leave behind were creeping closer, threatening the life she had built. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, memories from years ago flooded her mind. Anna had been just 20 years old when she became Ghost, a name whispered in fear among criminals and bounty hunters alike. She had worked for a private agency that specialized in high-risk captures, violent fugitives, cartel leaders, and dangerous enforcers. Her methods were efficient, ruthless, and precise, earning her a reputation that spread far beyond her home state. But the mission that ended her career still haunted her. She and her team had been tasked with capturing Vincent Hale, a notorious arms dealer who operated under layers of protection. The operation was supposed to be clean, a stealthy extraction that left no room for error. But something had gone wrong. Hale's men had been tipped off, and a firefight erupted. Anna's closest ally, Marcus, had taken a bullet meant for her. She still remembered the sound of his labored breathing as he lay dying in her arms, the blood pooling beneath him. You've got to finish this, Marcus had whispered, his voice weak but determined. Promise me. But Anna hadn't finished it. She'd walked away, leaving Hale's empire intact. The guilt had followed her ever since. a constant reminder of the price of her choices. The sound of an engine in the distance snapped Anna back to the present. She bolted upright, her senses on high alert. Grabbing the rifle she kept under her bed, she moved to the window, peering out into the darkness. A single motorcycle roared down the dirt road leading to the farm, its headlights cutting through the night. Anna's heart pounded as she watched it slow, the rider stopping just short of the gate. The figure dismounted, a shadow against the dim glow of the moon. Even from this distance, Anna could tell it wasn't Rex. This man was smaller, wiry, and hesitant in his movements. Anna grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside, the cold night air biting against her skin. "Who's there?" she called, her voice steady but sharp. The man froze, his hands raised slightly. "Wait, don't shoot," he said, his voice shaky. As Anna approached, the flashlight's beam revealed a young man, barely in his 20s. His face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. He wore a leather jacket with the Iron Reaper's patch, but it hung loosely on his slight frame, as if it didn't quite belong. "What are you doing here?" Anna demanded, her grip on the rifle firm. "They're planning something," the man stammered. I didn't sign up for this. I just wanted to ride. But Rex, he's got plans for you." Anna's eyes narrowed. "What kind of plans?" The man hesitated, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "He's bringing more guys. From the main chapter. They're coming here tomorrow night to teach you a lesson." Anna's jaw tightened, her mind racing. "Why are you telling me this? I don't want any part of it," the man said, his voice trembling. "Rex is crazy. He thinks if he takes you down, he'll get more respect from the other chapters. But I don't want to be here when it happens." Anna studied him for a long moment, her instincts weighing his sincerity. Finally, she lowered the rifle slightly. "Get out of here," she said coldly, "and don't let me see you again." The man nodded quickly, scrambling back to his bike. As the engine roared to life and faded into the distance, Anna stood in the darkness, her fists clenched. Rex was escalating, and she knew the confrontation she had been dreading was coming faster than she had anticipated. The next morning, Anna prepared for war. She retrieved the gear she had buried in the barn years ago: reinforced gloves, knives, and a lightweight chest rig designed for maximum mobility. From the hidden compartment in her truck, she pulled out a small arsenal, tools of her old trade that she had hoped never to use again. Her father watched in silence as she packed, his face a mixture of concern and understanding. "You're going after them, aren't you?" he finally asked. Anna paused, meeting his gaze. "They're coming here, Dad. If I don't stop them first, they'll hurt you. Hurt this farm. Hurt the town." John placed a hand on her shoulder, his grip firm. "Do what you have to do, Anna. Just come back safe." "I will," she said, her voice resolute. As she drove away from the farm, her truck loaded with supplies, Anna felt the weight of her past pressing down on her. She had left this life behind, but now it was calling her back. Rex thought he was dealing with a defenseless farm girl. He had no idea he was about to face Ghost. The sun hung low in the sky as Anna's truck rumbled down the empty road, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. Her sharp eyes scanned the horizon, her mind focused on what lay ahead. If Rex was bringing reinforcements from the Iron Reaper's main chapter, she had little time to prepare. A direct confrontation at the farm would put her father and everything they had built at risk. She wouldn't let it come to that. The engine growled as Anna turned onto a dirt path that cut through a dense patch of trees, leading to a secluded clearing. This place wasn't on any map, and that was intentional. Years ago, she had scouted it as a fallback spot during her time as a bounty hunter. Now, it would serve as the staging ground for her plan. She killed the engine and stepped out, her boots crunching against the dry leaves. The clearing was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of branches swaying in the wind. Anna opened the truck's tailgate and began unloading her gear. An arsenal of weapons and tools she hadn't touched in years. A lightweight crossbow, flashbang grenades, and her trusted knives, their blades glinting in the fading light. Her past was heavy in her hands as she worked, each piece of equipment a reminder of the life she had tried to leave behind. But tonight, she couldn't afford to be the farmer's daughter. She had to be Ghost again. As night fell, Anna's preparations were interrupted by the sound of a motorcycle approaching. The roar of the engine was faint at first, growing louder as it neared the clearing. She stiffened, her hand instinctively reaching for her sidearm. The bike skidded to a stop at the edge of the trees, and a familiar wiry figure dismounted. It was the young biker who had come to the farm the previous night, his face pale and anxious under the moonlight. "You're not supposed to be here," Anna said coldly, her voice cutting through the darkness. The young man raised his hands defensively, his helmet dangling from one arm. "Wait, I just came to warn you again. Please, listen to me." Anna's gaze didn't waver as she stepped closer, her boots silent against the ground. "You already told me Rex was planning something. If you're here to repeat yourself, you're wasting my time." "I'm not," he said quickly, his voice trembling. "I overheard more. Rex isn't just bringing a few guys. He's called in a whole crew, at least a dozen from the main chapter. They're coming tonight." Anna's jaw tightened. "And why should I trust you?" The young biker hesitated, his eyes darting nervously. "Because I don't want to see anyone get hurt, especially not you. You stood up to Rex, and he hates that, but you don't deserve what he's planning." Anna studied him, her instincts weighing his words. He looked desperate, his fear genuine, but fear alone wasn't enough to earn her trust. "What's your name?" she asked abruptly. "Jamie," he said after a pause. "Well, Jamie," Anna said evenly. "If you're lying to me, you're going to wish Rex got to you first. Now, tell me everything." Jamie sat on a fallen log as Anna listened to his hurried account. He told her about the call Rex had made to the Iron Reaper's main chapter, asking for backup to teach the girl a lesson. He described the men who would be coming: rough, violent bikers who thrived on chaos. They didn't just follow Rex's orders, they relished the opportunity to intimidate, destroy, and dominate. "They're planning to surround the farm," Jamie said, his voice shaking. "Trap you and your dad inside. They'll burn it if they have to." Anna's grip on her knife tightened. The thought of her father, alone and defenseless against men like Rex, sent a cold fury through her veins. "And what about you?" she asked. "Why aren't you with them?" Jamie hesitated, his shoulders slumping. "I didn't sign up for this. I thought joining the Iron Reapers would be about freedom, about belonging to something bigger. But all I've seen is cruelty. I don't want to be like them." Anna studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Then you've got a choice to make, Jamie. You can leave and hope Rex doesn't find you, or you can help me stop him." Jamie blinked, startled. "Help you? Against Rex? You don't understand what he's capable of." Anna's gaze was steady, her voice calm but unyielding. "No, Jamie, you don't understand what I'm capable of." As the hours passed, Anna's plan began to take shape. She walked Jamie through the traps she had set around the clearing, tripwires rigged to flashbang grenades, noisemakers designed to disorient, and a makeshift barricade of fallen logs to funnel the bikers into a choke point. Jamie watched her work with a mixture of awe and apprehension. "You're not just some farmer's daughter, are you?" he asked quietly. "No," Anna replied without looking up. "I'm not." Jamie didn't press her further, but the realization hung heavy between them. By the time the roar of multiple engines pierced the night, Anna was ready. She crouched behind a stack of logs, her crossbow loaded and her knives within reach. Jamie was positioned on the opposite side of the clearing, tasked with triggering the traps when the bikers entered. The first motorcycle came into view, its headlight cutting through the darkness. Rex was at the front, his scarred face twisted into a sneer. Behind him, a line of bikes stretched into the night, their riders clad in leather and steel, their laughter echoing ominously. "They don't know what they're walking into," Anna murmured to herself, her grip tightening on the crossbow. Rex raised a hand, signaling the group to stop. The bikes idled as he surveyed the clearing, his sharp eyes scanning for movement. "Anna," he called, his voice dripping with mockery. "You hiding out here, sweetheart? Thought you were tougher than this." Anna didn't respond, her breathing steady as she waited. Timing was everything. "Come on out," Rex continued, his tone turning darker. "We just want to have a little chat." When no answer came, Rex gestured to his men. "Spread out. Find her." The bikers dismounted, their boots crunching against the ground as they fanned out. That was the moment Anna had been waiting for. The first flashbang detonated with a deafening crack, blinding the bikers nearest to it. Shouts of confusion erupted as the men stumbled, their hands flying to their eyes. Another grenade went off moments later, followed by the sharp twang of Anna's crossbow. One biker dropped to the ground, clutching his leg where Anna's bolt had struck. The others scrambled for cover, their bravado replaced with panic. "Spread out," Rex roared, his voice cutting through the chaos. "She's one person. Take her down." Anna smirked from her hiding spot. "One person," she muttered. "That's all I need to be." As the bikers regrouped, they found themselves herded into the narrow choke point Anna had created. The barricade forced them into a tight formation, making them easy targets. Anna moved like a ghost, striking quickly and disappearing before they could react. By the time the last trap detonated, the clearing was littered with groaning bikers, their confidence shattered. Rex stood in the middle of the chaos, his face contorted with rage. "You think this is over?" he shouted into the night. "You don't scare me." Anna stepped out of the shadows, her crossbow aimed squarely at him. "You should be scared, Rex," she said, her voice cold as steel. "Because I'm just getting started." Rex froze, his sneering bravado flickering under Anna's steady aim. The clearing, once alive with the roar of motorcycles and mocking laughter, was now eerily silent, save for the groans of his fallen men. Anna stepped closer, her crossbow never wavering. "You made a mistake coming here, Rex," Anna said, her voice calm yet laced with warning. "You thought you could scare me, thought you could hurt my family. But now you know what happens when you underestimate me." Rex's lip curled, his defiance rekindling. "You think taking out a few of my guys changes anything?" He spat. "You don't know who you're messing with, sweetheart. The Iron Reapers don't stop." Anna tilted her head, her sharp eyes narrowing. "Neither do I." Before Rex could respond, a rustle in the shadows drew his attention. Jamie emerged cautiously, his hands raised in surrender. "Jamie?" Rex growled, recognition flashing in his eyes. "You little rat. I knew you weren't cut out for this." Jamie hesitated, glancing at Anna, who gave him a subtle nod. "I didn't sign up for this," Jamie said, his voice trembling but resolute. "I didn't join the Reapers to watch you destroy people's lives." "You're a traitor," Rex snarled, taking a step toward him. Anna intercepted, her crossbow shifting to aim directly at Rex's chest. "He's smarter than you," she said. "He knows when he's outmatched." Rex laughed bitterly. "Outmatched? You think you've won because of a couple of traps and cheap shots? The Reapers are bigger than me, bigger than you, bigger than this whole damn town." Anna's expression didn't falter. "Maybe, but they're not bigger than justice. And justice is coming for you, Rex." The sound of distant sirens cut through the night, growing louder with each passing second. Anna's plan had been meticulous, and this was the final piece, using the chaos to draw in the authorities. Rex's eyes darted toward the sound, his bravado cracking. "You called the cops?" he hissed, his tone venomous. Anna smirked faintly. "You came to my town, to my farm, thinking you were untouchable. Now you get to see how wrong you were." The headlights of approaching squad cars lit up the treetops as police vehicles pulled into the clearing. Officers spilled out, their weapons drawn as they shouted orders. "Drop your weapons," one officer commanded. Anna lowered her crossbow and stepped back, her hands raised to show she was unarmed. Rex, however, wasn't ready to go quietly. With a roar of fury, Rex lunged toward Anna, his knife flashing in the moonlight. Anna sidestepped, her movements swift and precise, and brought the butt of her crossbow down hard on his wrist. The knife clattered to the ground, and Rex stumbled, clutching his arm. Before he could recover, Anna swept his legs out from under him, sending him sprawling onto the dirt. She planted a boot on his chest, pinning him down as the officers rushed forward to restrain him. "Careful," Anna said to the officers, her voice cool. "He bites." Rex thrashed against the handcuffs, shouting obscenities as the police dragged him to his feet. His men, too battered and dazed to resist, were rounded up one by one. Jamie watched the scene unfold, his face pale but determined. He stepped closer to Anna, his voice low. You planned this, didn't you? Luring them here, calling the cops. Anna nodded, her gaze fixed on the chaos around her. Rex thought he was hunting me, but I've been hunting him from the start. Jamie swallowed hard. What happens now? That depends on you, Anna said, turning to face him. You've got a chance to walk away from this life, but it's your choice. Jamie hesitated, then nodded. I want out. I'll do whatever it takes. Good, Anna said. Then stick around. You'll need to talk to the cops. As the last of the bikers were loaded into police vehicles, an officer approached Anna. He was tall and grizzled, his uniform pressed but well-worn. You're the one who called this in? He asked, his tone curious. Anna nodded. They were coming for my farm, my family. I couldn't let that happen. The officer studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. You handled yourself well, a little too well for a farmer. I've had practice, Anna said simply. The officer raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. You did the right thing. This gang has been causing trouble across 3 states. Taking down Rex is going to put a big dent in their operations. Anna watched as the vehicles disappeared into the night, the weight of the moment settling over her. She had won the battle, but the fight wasn't over. The Iron Reapers were bigger than Rex, and she knew there would be others eager to take his place. Later, as Anna drove back to the farm with Jamie riding silently beside her, the exhaustion began to creep in. The adrenaline that had carried her through the night was fading, replaced by the familiar ache of memories she tried to bury. Jamie broke the silence. You're not just some farm girl, he said quietly. Are you? Anna kept her eyes on the road, her hands steady on the wheel. No, she admitted. I'm not. Jamie didn't push for more. Instead, he nodded, as if understanding that her past was something she wasn't ready to share. When they reached the farm, Anna stepped out of the truck and stood for a moment, staring at the quiet house and the fields bathed in moonlight. Her father opened the door, his face etched with concern. Is it over? John asked. For now, Anna said, her voice steady but tired. Rex is gone, and his men are in custody. But the Reapers, they're not finished. John stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Anna nodded, her heart heavy but resolute. The battle had ended, but the war wasn't over. And if the Iron Reapers came back, she would be ready. In the distance, the first hints of dawn began to paint the sky, a promise of a new day. For now, that was enough. The farm was quiet as dawn broke, the golden sunlight casting long shadows across the fields. For a moment, it seemed as though the events of the previous night were nothing more than a bad dream. But as Anna walked through the barn, checking the equipment and livestock, the weight of what was coming pressed heavily on her chest. Her father, John, found her in the tool shed, sharpening the blade of an old scythe. He stood silently for a moment, watching the steady rhythm of her movements before speaking. You didn't sleep, he said, his tone a mix of concern and reproach. I couldn't, Anna replied without looking up. There's too much to do. John sighed, stepping closer. Anna, you stopped them last night. You've done more than anyone could have asked. Maybe it's time to let the authorities handle it from here. Anna finally looked up, her eyes sharp and unwavering. It's not over, Dad. Rex was just one piece of the puzzle. The Iron Reapers won't stop until someone else takes his place, and when they do, they'll come back here. John frowned, his expression pained. You're carrying too much. Anna, this isn't just your fight. It is my fight, Anna said firmly, because I won't let them take what we've built. Not this farm, not this town, not you. John studied her for a long moment, then nodded. All right, he said quietly. What do you need me to do? By mid-morning, the farm was a hive of activity. Anna and Jamie worked side by side, reinforcing the fences and setting up rudimentary defenses around the property. Jamie had been quiet since their return from the clearing, his usual nervous energy replaced by a grim determination. You don't have to stay, Anna said as they hauled a pile of wood toward the barn. You've done enough. Jamie shook his head. I've made my decision. If I walk away now, I'll spend the rest of my life running. If I help you, maybe I can make up for some of the damage I've done. Anna didn't respond immediately, but her expression softened slightly. "All right, just remember, when things get messy, stay out of the line of fire." Jamie managed a faint smile. "I'll try." In town, word of the previous night's events spread quickly. The sheriff, an old friend of John's named Wyatt, arrived at the farm just after noon, his squad car kicking up dust as it pulled into the driveway. Wyatt stepped out, his hat tilted low against the sun. He was a broad-shouldered man in his 50s, with a face lined by years of dealing with trouble in a small town. "Morning, Anna," Wyatt said, tipping his hat. "Heard you had quite the night." "Rex and his men were looking for trouble," Anna replied, her tone neutral. "I made sure they found it." Wyatt chuckled dryly, though his expression remained serious. "You've got guts. I'll give you that. But you're playing a dangerous game. The Iron Reapers don't take kindly to being humiliated." "I'm aware," Anna said. "That's why I called you last night. I needed them taken off the board." Wyatt studied her for a moment, his sharp eyes narrowing. "You've got history with this kind of thing, don't you? More than you've let on." Anna didn't answer, but the silence was telling. "Well," Wyatt continued, "I'll do what I can to keep an eye on things. But if the Reapers decide to come back, we'll need more than just the local force to deal with them." "Thanks for the heads up," Anna said, her voice steady. "But I'll handle it." Wyatt shook his head, muttering under his breath as he climbed back into his car. "Stubborn as your old man." As the day stretched on, Anna found herself haunted by memories of her past. The years she had spent as Ghost had taught her many things: how to fight, how to survive, how to win. But they had also cost her dearly. The faces of those she had lost lingered in her mind, none more so than Marcus, her former partner. She could still hear his voice, see the determination in his eyes as he urged her to finish what they had started. She had walked away then, choosing a quiet life over vengeance. But now, as the shadows of the Iron Reapers loomed closer, Anna wondered if she had made the wrong choice. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Anna sat on the porch, her rifle resting across her lap. Jamie joined her, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "You don't have to keep watch all night," Jamie said, handing her one of the mugs. "They're not coming back that fast." "They might," Anna replied, taking a sip. Jamie hesitated, then sat beside her. "You're not afraid, are you?" Anna didn't answer right away. "Fear is natural," she said eventually, "but I've learned not to let it control me." Jamie nodded, though he still seemed troubled. "I used to think being part of the Reapers made me strong, that having their patch meant I was untouchable. But now, I just feel like a fool." "You're not a fool," Anna said, her voice softening. "You made a mistake, but you're here now. That counts for something." Jamie looked down at his mug, his expression thoughtful. "Do you think they'll ever stop? The Reapers? I mean, not on their own," Anna said, "but we're going to make sure they don't have a choice." As night fell, the farm was quiet once again, the fields bathed in the silver light of the moon. But Anna knew this calm was temporary. The Iron Reapers were regrouping, and when they came, they would come with everything they had. Still, as she sat in the darkness, her senses alert and her resolve unshaken, Anna felt a spark of hope. She wasn't fighting alone anymore. With her father, Jamie, and the strength of the community behind her, she knew they could face whatever was coming. The storm was on the horizon, but Anna Turner was ready, and this time, she wouldn't walk away. The storm that Anna had been preparing for finally broke as the first signs of the Iron Reaper's retaliation appeared. It came not with a roar, but a whisper, quiet enough to unsettle but loud enough to warn. At dawn, Anna's phone buzzed on the table. It wasn't a number she recognized, but the voice on the other end made her blood run cold. "You don't know me," the man said, his tone calm and measured. "But I know you. Ghost." Anna's grip on the phone tightened. No one had called her by that name in years. "Who is this?" she asked sharply, her voice low. "Someone who appreciates your work," the man replied. "I've been watching from a distance. Rex made a mistake targeting you, and now he's paying for it. But you and I both know this isn't over. The Reapers don't let things go." Anna's jaw clenched. "What do you want?" "I want to help you," the man said. "You've rattled them, and they're regrouping. But they're not just coming for your farm this time. They're making it personal." If you want to stay ahead of them, I suggest you listen. Why should I trust you? Anna demanded. Because I have nothing to gain by lying. The man replied smoothly. Think of me as an ally you didn't know you needed. Check the old warehouse on Route 19 tonight. You'll find what you need to know there. Before Anna could respond, the line went dead. Anna sat in silence for a moment, her mind racing. She didn't like being manipulated, but the man's warning couldn't be ignored. If the Reapers were escalating their plans, she needed to know what she was up against. Jamie entered the room, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. What's going on? He asked, noticing the tension in her posture. We've got a lead, Anna said, grabbing her jacket. But it might be a trap. Jamie frowned. And you're going anyway? Yes, Anna said firmly. If the Reapers are regrouping, we need to know where and how. Stay here and keep an eye on the farm. If anything happens, get my dad and head to the fallback spot we set up. I'm coming with you, Jamie said, his voice steady. Anna paused, studying him. His fear was still there, but so was his determination. After a moment, she nodded. All right, but stay behind me and follow my lead. The old warehouse on Route 19 was a relic of a bygone era, its rusted frame looming like a skeleton against the darkening sky. The wind howled through broken windows, carrying with it the faint scent of oil and decay. Anna parked the truck a safe distance away and scanned the area through binoculars. No visible movement, she murmured, handing the binoculars to Jamie. But that doesn't mean it's empty. What if this is a setup? Jamie asked, his voice low. Then we're ready for it, Anna replied, checking the knife strapped to her thigh and the pistol holstered at her hip. The two approached the warehouse cautiously, their footsteps silent against the gravel. Anna gestured for Jamie to stay back as she peered through a gap in the metal siding. The interior was dimly lit by a single flickering bulb, casting eerie shadows across the piles of abandoned crates and machinery. Stay close, Anna whispered, leading Jamie inside. The warehouse was eerily quiet, each creak of the floorboards echoing like a gunshot. As Anna moved deeper into the space, her sharp eyes caught something unusual. A table set up in the center of the room, covered with maps, photos, and documents. Anna approached cautiously, her pistol drawn. The photos on the table were of her farm, the town, and even the clearing where she had taken down Rex's crew. The maps detailed routes leading to and from Mill Creek, with handwritten notes scrawled in the margins. They've been watching us, Jamie whispered, his face pale as he examined the evidence. Anna's attention was drawn to a single photo pinned to the edge of the table. It was a grainy image of her from years ago, taken during one of her bounty hunting missions. Beneath it was a single word, ghost. They know, Jamie said, his voice trembling. They know who you are. Not all of it, Anna said, her voice steady despite the tightness in her chest. But they've figured out enough to make this personal. She rifled through the documents, searching for any clues about the Reaper's plans. One note caught her eye. Meeting tomorrow night, Mill Creek outskirts. Finalize plans. This is it, Anna said, stuffing the note into her pocket. They're gathering to plan their next move. If we hit them there, we can stop this before it escalates. Their retreat from the warehouse was swift and quiet, but as they approached the truck, a sudden roar of engines shattered the silence. Anna's heart sank as she saw 3 motorcycles speeding toward them, their headlights cutting through the darkness. Run, she barked, pushing Jamie toward the truck. The bikers closed in quickly, their voices whooping and jeering as they circled. One of them dismounted, his leather jacket gleaming in the dim light. Well, he sneered. Ghost herself, caught sneaking around like a rat. Rex told us you'd be snooping. Anna didn't respond. Her hand hovered near her holstered pistol as she locked eyes with the man. Don't bother, he said, grinning. You're outnumbered. No way you're getting out of this one. Anna's lips twitched into a faint smirk. That's what Rex thought, too. Before the man could react, Anna moved. Her pistol came up in a flash, and she fired a warning shot that ricocheted off the ground near his feet. The sudden noise startled the other bikers, giving her just enough time to grab Jamie and dive into the truck. Hold on, Anna shouted as she slammed the accelerator, the truck lurching forward with a roar. The chase was brutal, the bikers weaving through the darkness as they pursued the truck down the narrow road. Jamie clung to the seat, his face pale as Anna maneuvered sharply to avoid the motorcycles trying to box them in. "They're gaining," Jamie shouted. Anna's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, her mind racing. "Not for long," she muttered. She veered off the main road onto a dirt path, the truck's tires kicking up a cloud of dust. The bikers followed, their engines roaring as they closed the gap. Anna's hand darted to the console, grabbing a small metal canister. She twisted the cap and tossed it out the window. Moments later, a flashbang grenade detonated, bathing the road in blinding light. The bikers skidded to a halt, their momentum broken as they tried to recover. Anna didn't wait to see the results. She gunned the engine, the truck speeding away into the night. By the time they reached the safety of the farm, Anna's mind was already on the next move. The Reapers were regrouping faster than she had anticipated, but now she had the upper hand. She knew where they would be, and she wasn't going to let the opportunity pass. "We have to hit them tomorrow," Anna said as she and Jamie unloaded the truck. "If we don't, they'll keep coming." Jamie nodded, his fear tempered by resolve. "I'll be ready." As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Anna stood on the porch, her gaze fixed on the distant hills. The Reapers thought they could bring the fight to her. They were wrong. The day of reckoning arrived with an uneasy calm. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange haze over the farm as Anna finalized her preparations. She moved with quiet precision, packing the tools and weapons she would need for the operation. The note she had found in the warehouse burned in her pocket, a stark reminder of the Reapers' plans and her limited time to stop them. Jamie stood nearby, loading extra supplies into the truck. Though he had made strides in overcoming his fear, the tension in his face was unmistakable. "You really think we can stop them?" he asked, breaking the silence. Anna glanced at him, her sharp eyes steady. "We're not just stopping them, we're sending a message. They came after me, my family, this town, and they're going to regret it." By dusk, they were on the road, heading for the outskirts of Mill Creek where the Reapers were set to gather. The location was a secluded junkyard, a labyrinth of rusted cars and towering scrap piles that offered plenty of cover for the bikers' meeting. It was the perfect place for them to scheme, and the perfect place for an ambush. Anna parked the truck a safe distance away, cutting the engine to avoid drawing attention. She and Jamie disembarked quietly, their movements careful and deliberate. The faint hum of voices and the occasional burst of laughter drifted through the night air, confirming that the bikers were already assembled. "Stick close," Anna whispered, handing Jamie a compact radio. "We'll need to stay coordinated. If things go south, fall back to the truck and get out of here." Jamie nodded, his grip tightening on the small flashlight in his hand. "What about you?" "I'll be right behind you," Anna said firmly, though they both knew she was prepared to stay and fight if necessary. They approached the junkyard from the west side, weaving through the dense rows of scrap metal. The flickering glow of a fire came into view, illuminating a group of bikers gathered around a makeshift table. At least a dozen men were present, their leather jackets gleaming in the firelight, their voices loud and confident. Rex wasn't there, but Anna recognized a few familiar faces, lieutenants who had likely stepped in to organize the gang in his absence. One of them, a stocky man with a shaved head and a snake tattoo coiled around his neck, barked orders at the others. "We hit the farm at dawn," Snake said, stabbing a finger at the map spread across the table. "Take out the girl, burn the place to the ground, and make it clear to anyone who crosses us. This is what happens." Anna's jaw tightened as she crouched behind a pile of scrap. These men weren't just planning an attack. They were preparing to make an example of her and her family. She had heard that kind of rhetoric before, and it always ended in bloodshed. Jamie tugged at her sleeve, his face pale. "They're serious," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "We can't take them all." "We don't have to," Anna murmured. "We just need to break them." She pulled a small device from her pocket, a remote detonator wired to the flashbangs and noisemakers she had planted earlier in the day. Each trap was carefully positioned to disorient and divide the bikers, turning the chaotic terrain of the junkyard into an advantage. "Stay low," Anna instructed Jamie. "When I set off the first trap, They'll scatter. That's when we strike. Jamie swallowed hard but nodded, his trust in her unwavering despite his fear. The first explosion shattered the stillness, a flashbang erupting with a deafening crack and a blinding burst of light. The bikers recoiled in confusion, some shouting and others scrambling for cover. Before they could regroup, Anna triggered a second trap, sending a pile of scrap metal tumbling loudly to the ground. "They're everywhere," one of the bikers yelled, his voice laced with panic. "It's a setup." Amid the chaos, Anna moved like a shadow. She darted between the piles of junk, picking off bikers one by one with precise, non-lethal strikes. Her crossbow hissed as she fired bolts into their arms and legs, incapacitating them without leaving permanent damage. Jamie, emboldened by the confusion, used a slingshot to launch small, smoke-producing devices Anna had given him. The thick clouds obscured the bikers' vision, making it nearly impossible for them to coordinate. "Stick together," Snake bellowed, his voice cutting through the cacophony. "It's just one person." Anna stepped into the light, her cold gaze fixed on him. "Wrong," she said. "It's me." The bikers froze as they saw her, their fear palpable. Snake sneered, masking his unease with bravado. "Ghost," he said, his lips curling into a grin. "I've heard about you. Thought you were a myth." Anna raised her crossbow, her movements deliberate. "You should have kept believing that." Snake lunged, pulling a knife from his belt, but Anna sidestepped with practiced ease. She disarmed him with a swift strike to his wrist, the knife clattering to the ground. Before he could recover, she drove her knee into his gut, sending him sprawling. The other bikers hesitated, torn between fighting and fleeing. Jamie, still hidden in the shadows, used the moment to trigger the final trap, a blast that sent sparks raining down from an overhead rigging. "Get out of here," Snake yelled, his confidence shattered as the flames licked at the edges of the junkyard. The bikers scrambled for their bikes, their once united front reduced to a disorganized retreat. Within minutes, the roar of engines faded into the distance, leaving only Snake lying on the ground, clutching his ribs. Anna approached him slowly, her crossbow aimed at his chest. "You're going to tell your boss that Mill Creek is off limits," she said coldly. "And if the Iron Reapers come back, they won't just lose, they'll cease to exist." Snake glared up at her, his bravado faltering under the weight of her words. "You don't know what you're messing with," he hissed. "The Reapers are bigger than you, bigger than this town." Anna crouched down, her voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "Let them come. I'll be waiting." As the first hints of dawn crept over the horizon, Anna and Jamie returned to the farm. The junkyard lay silent behind them, a testament to the chaos they had unleashed. Though the Reapers had retreated, Anna knew the fight wasn't over. "They'll come back," Jamie said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. Anna nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "Then we'll be ready." The battle had been won, but the war against the Iron Reapers was far from finished. And as Anna stood on the porch, her resolve unshaken, she knew she would do whatever it took to protect her family, her town, and the life she had built. The morning after the ambush, Mill Creek was unusually quiet, as if the town itself was holding its breath. Anna stood on the porch, the morning sun casting long shadows across the farm. She was exhausted, but there was no time to rest. The Iron Reapers had been driven back, but they weren't gone. If history had taught her anything, it was that desperation made people dangerous. Jamie approached from the barn, his face drawn but determined. "I heard you talking last night," he said. "You're planning something, aren't you?" Anna glanced at him, her sharp eyes giving away nothing. "I'm not waiting for them to come back," she said simply. "If we're going to stop the Reapers for good, we need to hit them where it hurts." Jamie frowned. "You mean their headquarters?" Anna nodded. "The Reapers' base is the hub for their operations. It's where they keep their weapons, stash their money, and plan their moves. If we take it out, we cripple them." But this wasn't a mission she could do alone. Not this time. The Reapers' main chapter was too large, too organized. She needed backup, and the only way to get it was to rally the townspeople. Later that morning, Anna and Jamie drove into town. The main street was quiet, but the tension was palpable. People lingered near shop windows, talking in hushed voices. their fear evident. Word of the Reaper's presence had spread, and though many were relieved to hear about the ambush, others were terrified of the gang's retaliation. Anna parked the truck in front of the community hall, a modest building that had once served as a gathering place for town meetings and events. Today, it would serve a different purpose. She stood on the steps, her voice cutting through the murmurs as people gathered. "I need your help," she began, her tone firm but calm. "The Iron Reapers aren't just a threat to me or my farm. They're a threat to all of us. If we don't stop them now, they'll keep coming back, and the next time, they'll bring more than just bikes." The crowd exchanged nervous glances, but no one spoke. Anna's gaze swept over the group. "I know you're scared," she said, softening her tone, "but fear won't keep them away. The only thing that will is standing together. If we show them that Mill Creek isn't afraid, they'll think twice before coming back." A man near the back of the crowd raised his hand. It was Mr. Carson, the town's mechanic and a respected voice in the community. "And what exactly are you asking us to do?" "I'm asking you to stand with me," Anna said. "We're going to hit their headquarters and dismantle their operation. It's risky, but if we succeed, we'll send a message that Mill Creek isn't theirs to control." The crowd murmured again, uncertainty rippling through them. "That's insane," a younger man muttered. "We're not soldiers. How can we fight them?" Anna stepped forward, her voice steady. "You don't have to be soldiers. You just have to believe in what we're fighting for. Our town, our families, our future. I'll lead the charge. All I need from you is your support." The silence stretched uncomfortably until Clara, the shopkeeper, stepped forward. "Anna's right," she said, her voice strong. "We can't keep living in fear. They've already taken enough from us. It's time we take something back." Her words sparked a wave of agreement. One by one, others began to speak up. Mr. Carson, Clara, and even Mrs. Jenkins, the elderly widow who ran the library. Jamie, standing off to the side, felt a swell of pride. Anna had managed to do what he thought was impossible. She had given the town hope. By the end of the meeting, a plan was in place. Anna would lead a small team to the Reaper's base, while the rest of the town prepared defenses in case of retaliation. Supplies were gathered, weapons were improvised, and volunteers were trained in basic tactics. Among the volunteers was Kevin, a young farmer who had lost a brother to the Reaper's violence years ago. "I'm tired of being scared," he said when Anna questioned his resolve. "It's time we show them what this town is made of." As night fell, the team gathered at the edge of town, their faces lit by the glow of lanterns. Anna stood before them, her voice calm but firm. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," she said. "We're fighting for everyone who's been hurt by the Reapers, for our families, for our neighbors, and for the ones who aren't here to fight anymore. Stick to the plan, watch each other's backs, and we'll come out of this stronger than ever." The group nodded, their fear overshadowed by determination. Jamie stepped closer to Anna as they loaded into the trucks. "Do you think this will work?" he asked. Anna met his gaze, her expression resolute. "It has to." The convoy of trucks rolled out under the cover of darkness, heading toward the Reaper's base, a fortified warehouse on the outskirts of the neighboring town. The building loomed ahead, its windows glowing faintly with light, and the distant sound of engines hinted at the bikers inside. Anna signaled for the trucks to stop a safe distance away. She gathered the group, her voice low but firm. "Stick to the plan," she said. "We create distractions to draw them out. Once their numbers are thinned, we hit the warehouse and take out their resources. No heroics, no risks we don't need to take. Understood?" The team nodded, their resolve firm. The first distraction came in the form of a controlled explosion. Anna and Jamie had rigged an abandoned car to detonate, sending flames and smoke into the air. The bikers poured out of the warehouse, their shouts echoing into the night as they scrambled to assess the situation. As chaos unfolded, Anna's team moved into position. Kevin and Clara handled the exterior, disabling the bikers' vehicles to prevent reinforcements from escaping. Jamie, armed with a slingshot and smoke grenades, provided cover as Anna and her core team advanced toward the warehouse. Inside, the bikers were scrambling to protect their stash of weapons and cash. Anna moved swiftly, her strikes precise as she incapacitated the men who crossed her path. The sound of gunfire echoed through the building, but her team was disciplined, sticking to the plan. The turning point came when Anna reached the warehouse's main office. Inside, she found Snake, the lieutenant from the junkyard, along with several others. They turned at the sound of her footsteps, their faces twisting in recognition and fury. "You just don't know when to quit, do you?" Snake sneered, drawing a pistol. Anna's response was swift. She kicked over a metal filing cabinet, using it as cover as Snake's shot rang out. The bullet ricocheted harmlessly off the metal, and before he could fire again, Anna vaulted over the desk, disarming him with a brutal strike to his wrist. The others hesitated, clearly unnerved by her speed and precision. "You want to try your luck?" Anna asked coldly, her voice cutting through the tension. They didn't. By the time the sun began to rise, the battle was over. The Reaper's base was in shambles, their resources destroyed, and their remaining men subdued. Anna stood outside the warehouse, her team gathering around her as they caught their breath. "We did it," Jamie said, his voice a mix of disbelief and relief. Anna nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. "But today, we showed them what we're capable of." As the first rays of sunlight bathed the town in gold, Mill Creek stood united, no longer afraid, but ready to face whatever came next. The aftermath of the assault on the Iron Reaper's base left Anna and her team grappling with the weight of their success. The warehouse, once a symbol of the gang's power, now lay in ruins, its resources destroyed and its men scattered or captured. For the first time, the people of Mill Creek had struck a decisive blow against their oppressors. But Anna knew this victory wasn't without consequences. As dawn broke over the warehouse, the air was heavy with the smell of smoke and oil. Anna stood near one of the burned-out vehicles, her expression calm but her mind racing. Around her, members of the team were tending to minor injuries and loading confiscated weapons into their trucks. Jamie approached, his face pale but resolute. "What now?" he asked, his voice breaking the uneasy silence. Anna glanced at him, her sharp eyes betraying the tension beneath her calm exterior. "Now we regroup," she said. "This was a major blow, but the Reapers won't stay down for long. They'll come back, angrier and more desperate." "You think they'll retaliate?" Jamie asked, his fear evident. Anna nodded. "I know they will, and we need to be ready." By mid-morning, the team returned to Mill Creek. The townspeople gathered in the square as the trucks rolled in, their faces a mixture of awe and anxiety. News of the successful ambush had spread quickly, and while many were relieved, others were acutely aware of the risk they had taken. Clara was the first to speak as Anna stepped out of the lead truck. "Is it over?" she asked, her voice laced with hope. "Not yet," Anna replied, her tone measured. "We dealt them a major blow, but this isn't the end. The Reapers will regroup, and when they do, they'll be more dangerous than ever." The crowd murmured uneasily, and Mr. Carson, the town's mechanic, stepped forward. "So what do we do now?" Anna's gaze swept over the group, her voice steady. "We prepare. The Reapers thrive on fear, but we've shown them that we won't back down. If they come for us again, we'll be ready." The hours that followed were a flurry of activity. Anna and her team worked with the townspeople to fortify Mill Creek, reinforcing fences and barricades around key areas. They set up watch points on the outskirts of town, manned by volunteers who had proven their courage during the ambush. Jamie, despite his initial hesitation, took on a leadership role among the younger volunteers, teaching them basic tactics and coordination. "If we stay organized, we can hold our ground," he told them, his confidence growing with each passing hour. That evening, Anna sat with her father on the porch of the farmhouse, the quiet hum of crickets filling the air. John handed her a mug of coffee, his expression thoughtful. "You did good today," he said. "It doesn't feel like enough," Anna replied, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "We won a battle, but the war's still out there." John leaned back in his chair, his weathered hands cradling his own mug. "You've always carried the weight of the world on your shoulders, Anna, but you're not alone in this. The town's behind you now, and so am I." Anna glanced at him, a flicker of gratitude crossing her face. I just hope it's enough. The following morning, a chilling reminder of the Reaper's reach arrived. A convoy of cars pulled into town, but these weren't locals or gang members. They were government agents, their black SUVs gleaming in the sunlight. A man in a sharp suit stepped out of the lead vehicle, his expression unreadable as he approached Anna, who stood near the town square. "Miss Turner," he said, extending a hand. "I'm Agent Warren, with the Bureau of Organized Crime. I think we need to talk." Anna shook his hand, her guard up. "About what?" "About your little raid on the Iron Reaper's base," Warren said, his tone neutral. "You made quite the impression." The mention of the raid sent a ripple of unease through the crowd gathering nearby. Anna's eyes narrowed. "If you're here to stop us, you're wasting your time." Warren raised a hand. "I'm not here to stop you. Frankly, what you did saved us months of work, but you've stirred up a hornet's nest. The Reapers are a national network, and what happens in Mill Creek could have ripple effects we can't control. So what are you suggesting?" Anna asked, her voice cold. "I'm suggesting you let us help you," Warren said. "We've been tracking the Reapers for years, but we've never had an inside track like this. If we work together, we can dismantle their entire operation." The proposition was tempting, but Anna couldn't shake her skepticism. In her experience, outside help often came with strings attached. "I'll think about it," she said finally. Warren nodded, handing her a business card. "Don't take too long. The Reapers are already regrouping, and their leadership isn't happy about what you've done." As the agents left, Anna stood in the square, the weight of the decision pressing heavily on her. Working with the Bureau could give her the resources to take down the Reapers for good, but it also meant trusting outsiders with the safety of her town. That night, as she stood on the porch of the farmhouse, Anna's thoughts were a storm of conflicting emotions. The Reapers were reeling, but the fight was far from over. And now, with the Bureau involved, the stakes were higher than ever. Her father joined her, his presence grounding her amidst the chaos in her mind. "What are you going to do?" John asked. Anna's jaw tightened, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "Whatever it takes," she said quietly. "The Reapers started this fight. I'm going to finish it." As the night deepened and the stars blinked into the sky, Anna knew one thing for certain: the road ahead would be dangerous. But she wasn't going to stop until the Iron Reapers were no longer a threat. Not to her, not to Mill Creek, and not to anyone else. The morning sun had barely risen when Anna found herself holding Agent Warren's card, the sharp black letters standing out against the crisp white surface. The temptation to call him had kept her awake most of the night. She was torn between trusting her instincts, which told her to handle this alone, and the undeniable logic of leveraging the Bureau's resources to take down the Iron Reapers for good. Finally, after another moment of hesitation, she dialed the number. "Agent Warren." His voice came through, sharp and professional. "It's Anna Turner," she said bluntly. "Let's talk." There was a pause on the other end. "I was hoping you'd call," Warren replied. "I assume you're ready to work with us?" "I want to make one thing clear," Anna said. "This town isn't your playground. If I see you or your men jeopardizing what we've built here, you're out." Warren's tone didn't falter. "Understood. But if we're going to dismantle the Reapers, you'll have to trust me, at least a little." "Trust is earned," Anna replied. "What's the plan?" Warren arrived in Mill Creek that afternoon with a small team. Unlike the agents from the day before, these operatives moved with purpose and precision. They didn't look like the typical pencil pushers Anna expected. They were trained field agents, hardened by years of undercover work. Anna, along with Jamie and a few other key volunteers, met Warren and his team at the community hall. Maps of the region were spread across the tables, alongside dossiers on prominent members of the Iron Reaper's leadership. "Here's the situation," Warren began, pointing to a cluster of photos on one of the maps. "With Rex out of the picture, leadership has shifted to his second-in-command, Maddox." Anna's eyes narrowed. She recognized the name. Maddox was a brutal enforcer with a reputation for ruthlessness. "Maddox isn't just looking to rebuild," Warren continued. "He's consolidating power, rallying other chapters of the Iron Reapers to retaliate. We've intercepted communications suggesting he's planning to turn Mill Creek into a warning for anyone else who might defy them." The The room fell silent, the weight of Warren's words sinking in. "What's our move?" Anna asked, breaking the tension. "We hit them before they hit us," Warren said. "Maddox is holding a meeting with his lieutenants at a compound about 20 miles north of here. If we strike during the meeting, we can cripple their leadership and dismantle their operations in one blow." As the room discussed strategy, Anna couldn't shake her unease. She didn't trust Warren or his team fully, but the intelligence they brought was invaluable. After hours of planning, a two-pronged assault was devised. Anna's group would handle the initial infiltration, creating distractions and taking out external defenses, while Warren's team would move in to secure the compound and apprehend Maddox. "You sure about this?" Jamie asked later that evening as they prepared their gear. Anna tightened the strap on her chest rig, her movements deliberate. "It's risky, but it's our best shot." Jamie hesitated, then nodded. "Just don't get too caught up in their plan. Remember why we're doing this." "I won't forget," Anna said firmly. The assault began under the cover of darkness. The compound, nestled deep in a wooded area, was heavily guarded, its perimeter lined with chain-link fences and armed sentries. Anna and her team moved through the shadows, their movements silent and precise. Jamie was tasked with disabling the compound's power grid, a crucial part of their strategy. As Anna covered him, he worked quickly, his hands steady despite the tension in the air. "Almost there," Jamie whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the generator. Anna's ears picked up the faint crunch of footsteps nearby. She motioned for Jamie to stay low, her hand instinctively gripping the knife at her side. A guard emerged from the shadows, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Anna waited, her body coiled like a spring, until the guard was within striking distance. In one swift motion, she disarmed him, knocking him unconscious with a precise blow to the temple. Jamie exhaled shakily as Anna turned back to him. "Hurry up," she said, her voice calm but urgent. Moments later, the compound went dark. The hum of the generator ceased, replaced by shouts of confusion from the guards inside. "That's our cue," Anna said, motioning for Jamie to follow her. Inside the compound, chaos reigned. The loss of power had thrown the bikers into disarray, and Anna's team used the confusion to their advantage. They moved quickly, neutralizing guards and planting explosives at key points around the perimeter. Warren and his agents arrived shortly after, their precision and training evident as they swept through the compound, apprehending anyone who resisted. Anna's focus, however, was on Maddox. She knew he wouldn't go down without a fight, and she wasn't about to let him escape. She found him in a large garage near the back of the compound, barking orders to his men as they scrambled to arm themselves. "Maddox," Anna called, her voice cutting through the noise. He turned, his eyes narrowing as he recognized her. "Well, if it isn't Ghost," he sneered. "You've been making quite the mess." Anna stepped forward, her pistol aimed squarely at him. "It's over, Maddox. The Reapers are done." Maddox laughed, his voice dripping with disdain. "You think taking me out will stop us? The Reapers are bigger than one man. Or one chapter. Maybe," Anna said, "but without you, they'll fall apart." Maddox's grin faded, and in a flash, he lunged for the weapon on the table beside him. But Anna was faster. Her shot rang out, the bullet grazing his arm and sending him sprawling to the ground. "You're done," she said coldly, stepping over him as Warren and his team stormed in to secure the room. By the time the sun rose, the compound was under control. Maddox and his men were in custody, their weapons and supplies confiscated. Warren approached Anna as she stood near one of the smoldering vehicles, her expression unreadable. "We couldn't have done this without you," Warren said. "This isn't over," Anna replied, her voice steady. "The Reapers are bigger than Maddox, and someone will take his place if we're not careful. We'll keep the pressure on," Warren assured her. "And if they come back, you know where to find us." Anna nodded, but her trust in him remained cautious. As they drove back to Mill Creek, Jamie broke the silence. "Do you think this is really the end?" "It's a start," Anna said, "but there's still a long way to go." The fight against the Reapers wasn't over, but for the first time, Anna felt a glimmer of hope. Together, The town had proven that they could stand against even the darkest of threats. And no matter what came next, Anna was ready. The drive back to Mill Creek was quieter than Anna expected. The events of the night, the chaos, the gunfire, and the capture of Maddox should have felt like a victory, but a lingering unease weighed heavily on her. Jamie sat beside her in the truck, his hands fidgeting with the strap of his backpack, his gaze distant. "You did good back there," Anna said, breaking the silence. Jamie blinked, startled out of his thoughts. "I don't know," he murmured. "It feels like we've done something, but I can't shake the feeling they'll still come back." "They will," Anna said simply. "The Reapers are like a disease. You don't cure it overnight. But what we did tonight, it's a step forward. And sometimes, that's all you can ask for." Jamie nodded, though his worry didn't entirely fade. As they rolled into town, the early morning light cast a golden glow over Mill Creek. The townspeople were already stirring, their nervous anticipation evident as they gathered in the square to greet Anna and the others. Clara was the first to approach, her sharp eyes scanning Anna and Jamie for signs of injury. "You made it back," she said, her voice a mixture of relief and determination. "What happened?" "We hit them hard," Anna said, stepping out of the truck. "Maddox is in custody, and the bureaus confiscated their weapons and supplies. It's a major blow." The crowd murmured with cautious optimism, but Clara's expression remained skeptical. "So it's over?" "No," Anna replied, her voice firm. "Not yet, but we've shaken them. The Reapers thrive on fear, and they'll have to think twice before coming back here." The rest of the morning was spent updating the town on the mission's success and addressing their concerns. Many were relieved, but some remained uneasy, their fear of retaliation still fresh. As the meeting broke up, Anna caught sight of Wyatt, the town sheriff, leaning against his squad car. He hadn't been directly involved in the mission, but his quiet support had been invaluable. "You've stirred up a hornet's nest," Wyatt said as Anna approached. "They needed stirring," Anna replied, crossing her arms. Wyatt chuckled dryly. "Fair enough. But you know as well as I do that taking Maddox down won't stop them completely." "I know," Anna said, "but it buys us time. Time to prepare. Time to rebuild." Wyatt nodded, his expression serious. "If they do come back, you'll have my support. But we're going to need more than guts and grit next time." Anna's lips twitched into a faint smile. "Good thing we've got plenty of both." As the day wore on, Anna found herself drawn back to the farm, the place that had always been her sanctuary. But even there, the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her. John was waiting for her on the porch, his weathered face breaking into a smile as she approached. "You look like you've been through hell," he said lightly, though his eyes betrayed his concern. "Feels like it," Anna replied, sinking into the chair beside him. John studied her for a moment, then leaned back with a sigh. "You've done a lot for this town, Anna, more than anyone could have asked. But you can't carry this burden alone." "I'm not," Anna said, though the words felt hollow. "The town's behind me, and the bureau's watching the Reapers now." "That's not what I mean," John said gently. "You've been fighting your whole life, first as a bounty hunter, now as a protector. But you need to remember why you're fighting. If you lose sight of that, you'll lose yourself." Anna didn't respond immediately, her thoughts turning to the faces of the people she was protecting: Jamie, Clara, Wyatt, and the rest of Mill Creek. "I won't forget," she said finally. "Not this time." That evening, Jamie joined Anna in the barn as she went through the supplies they had brought back from the mission. He was quieter than usual, his gaze lingering on the tools of her trade: the knives, the tactical gear, the crossbow that had become her signature weapon. "Do you ever think about walking away?" Jamie asked suddenly. Anna glanced at him, surprised by the question. "Walking away from what?" "All of this," Jamie said, gesturing around the barn. "The fighting, the planning, the constant looking over your shoulder. Don't you ever just want to leave it behind?" Anna hesitated, her mind flashing back to the years she had spent trying to live a quiet life after leaving bounty hunting behind. "I tried," she said finally. "After Marcus, after everything that happened, I walked away. But the past has a way of catching up to you, and sometimes, the fight finds you whether you want it or not." Jamie frowned, his expression troubled. So what's the point? Then, if the fight never really ends? Anna set down the gear she was holding and turned to face him. The point is that it's worth fighting for. Mill Creek is worth fighting for. These people, this town, they're worth protecting. Even if it's hard, even if it's messy, it's worth it. Jamie looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. I hope I can believe that one day. You will, Anna said. But for now, just keep going, one step at a time. As the stars blinked into the night sky, Anna sat on the porch, her mind heavy with thoughts of what lay ahead. The Reapers were weakened, but they weren't defeated. She knew their retaliation would come, and it would be brutal. But for now, there was peace, a fragile, fleeting peace that she would protect with everything she had. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time in a long time, Anna felt like she wasn't fighting alone, and that made all the difference. The fragile peace in Mill Creek was short-lived, though Anna and her team had dealt a significant blow to the Iron Reapers by taking down Maddox and dismantling their headquarters. The gang's influence ran deeper than anyone in the town fully understood. 2 weeks had passed since the raid, and the air was thick with an uneasy tension. Mill Creek's residents had begun to rebuild their routines, but whispers of retaliation circulated like a haunting wind. People glanced nervously over their shoulders, and the sound of distant motorcycles sent shivers through the quiet streets. Anna, however, wasn't waiting for the inevitable. Early one morning, Jamie found her in the barn, poring over a new set of maps and reports. The dim light of a single lantern illuminated her sharp features as she studied the information the Bureau had shared after the raid. You've been at this all night, Jamie said, crossing his arms. Again, I don't have the luxury of sleep, Anna replied, not looking up. The Reapers are regrouping. If we don't figure out their next move, everything we've done will be for nothing. Jamie sighed, pulling up a crate to sit beside her. We've already hit them hard. Maddox is gone. Their resources are depleted, and the Bureau's watching them. How much fight could they have left? Anna glanced at him, her eyes piercing. Desperation makes people dangerous. Jamie, the Reapers thrive on control, and we just stripped that away. They won't let that slide. Her instincts were proven right later that afternoon. Wyatt, the sheriff, arrived at the farm in a cloud of dust, his patrol car skidding to a stop in the driveway. His face was grim as he stepped out, a stack of photos clutched in his hand. We've got a problem, he said, handing the photos to Anna. The images showed the aftermath of an attack on a nearby town. A gas station burned to the ground, cars overturned, and graffiti scrawled on the walls. The unmistakable emblem of the Iron Reaper's MC was spray-painted across the rubble. This happened last night, Wyatt said. The Reapers are sending a message. Anna's jaw tightened as she flipped through the photos. Any casualties? 2 injured. No deaths, Wyatt replied. But it's only a matter of time before they escalate. We're on their radar now, Anna, and this town is next. The town meeting that evening was tense, the air in the community hall thick with fear and frustration. Anna stood at the front of the room, flanked by Wyatt, Jamie, and Clara. The crowd was restless, their voices rising as they debated what to do. We can't just sit here and wait for them to come, one man shouted, his voice cracking with anger. And what are we supposed to do? Another woman retorted. We're not fighters. We can't take on a gang like that. Anna raised her hand, her voice cutting through the commotion. Enough. The room fell silent as she stepped forward, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. I understand you're scared, Anna said. We all are. But fear won't protect us. If we give in to it, the Reapers will win without lifting a finger. Clara nodded in agreement. Anna's right. They're counting on us to back down. But we've shown them we're stronger than that. But how long can we keep this up? Another voice asked. They'll just keep coming. Anna took a deep breath. We've dealt them a major blow, but they're not invincible. We know their tactics, their weaknesses. With the Bureau's help, we can track their movements and stay one step ahead. But we need to stand together. The room was quiet for a moment, the weight of her words sinking in. Finally, Mr. Carson, the town mechanic, spoke up. What do you need from us? Over the next few days, the town transformed into a hive of preparation. Under Anna's guidance, Volunteers fortified key areas, reinforced watch points, and set up early warning systems. Clara coordinated food and supply storage, while Jamie worked with younger residents to organize patrols. Meanwhile, Anna and Wyatt met with Agent Warren and his team to devise a counter-strategy. The Bureau had intercepted communications suggesting that the Reapers were planning a large-scale attack on Mill Creek, but the exact timing and details remained unclear. "They're trying to draw us out," Warren said during a late-night strategy meeting. "The attack on the gas station was just the beginning. They want to provoke a response, to make you come to them on their terms. We're not playing their game." Anna replied firmly. "We need to turn the tables." Warren leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "There's one way to do that," he said after a pause. "We lure them into a trap, make them think they've got the upper hand, then hit them hard when they least expect it." Anna nodded slowly. "It's risky, but it could work. We just need to make sure the bait is convincing." The trap was set in motion the following night, using a combination of false intelligence and staged movements. The Bureau fed the Reapers information suggesting that Mill Creek's defenses were vulnerable. At the same time, Anna and her team prepared the town for the impending showdown. The plan relied on precision and timing. The Reapers would be drawn into a bottleneck on the outskirts of town, where strategically placed barricades and traps would give Mill Creek's defenders the upper hand. "This is it," Anna said as she briefed the volunteers one final time. "Stick to the plan, watch each other's backs, and remember what we're fighting for. The Reapers think they can break us, but tonight, we show them just how wrong they are." As midnight approached, the distant rumble of engines signaled the Reapers' arrival. Anna stood at the main watch point, her crossbow slung over her shoulder and her sharp eyes scanning the darkness. "They're coming," Jamie said, his voice trembling with both fear and anticipation. "Stay focused," Anna said, her tone steady. The first wave of bikers roared into view, their headlights cutting through the night. They slowed as they approached the barricades, their confidence evident in the swagger of their movements. "Hold," Anna whispered into her radio, her voice calm despite the tension in the air. When the lead biker reached the edge of the bottleneck, Anna gave the signal. Now, the trap sprung into action. A combination of flashbangs, smoke grenades, and collapsing debris plunging the bikers into chaos. The defenders opened fire with carefully placed warning shots, forcing the Reapers to scatter and abandon their formation. Anna moved swiftly through the chaos, her strikes precise as she took down key targets. Jamie and the other volunteers worked together to maintain control, their training paying off as they held the line. The Reapers, caught off guard and disorganized, began to retreat. By the time the dust settled, the town stood victorious, its people united in their resolve. As dawn broke over Mill Creek, Anna stood on the edge of town, her body exhausted but her spirit unbroken. The Reapers had been driven back once again, but the fight was far from over. "We did it," Jamie said, his voice filled with awe. Anna nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. For now, the Reapers would return, but Mill Creek was ready. Together, they would stand strong, no matter what came next. The morning after the ambush on the Reapers, Mill Creek stood victorious, but the cost of constant vigilance weighed heavily on its people. Though the town had proven its strength, Anna knew that the Iron Reapers' retreat wasn't a defeat, it was a regrouping. As Anna walked through the town square, she noticed the quiet determination etched into the faces of those around her. Clara was organizing supplies with a group of volunteers. Jamie was leading a watch rotation near the barricades, and Wyatt was in deep discussion with one of his deputies. Each person was doing their part, but the tension was palpable. Anna's thoughts were interrupted when Agent Warren approached, his expression grim. "We've intercepted new intel," he said, holding out a tablet with a map displayed on the screen. "The Reapers aren't done. They've called reinforcements from neighboring chapters. This isn't just about retaliation anymore. It's about making a statement." Anna studied the map, her jaw tightening as she took in the information. The Reapers had established a temporary base at an abandoned mill about 30 miles from Mill Creek. It was a strategic location, isolated but close enough for a swift assault. "They're consolidating their power," Warren continued. "If we don't hit them now, They'll have the numbers and resources to overwhelm us. That evening, Anna gathered her core team, Jamie, Wyatt, Clara, and a few other key volunteers, to discuss the plan. We can't wait for them to bring the fight to us, Anna said, her voice steady. If we're going to stop this, we need to strike first. Jamie frowned. Another raid? Are you sure we can handle this? They'll be expecting something after last night. They'll be expecting us to stay defensive, Anna replied. That's why we need to take them by surprise. Hit them where they're weakest. Wyatt nodded, his arms crossed. The mill's isolated. We can use the terrain to our advantage, just like we did at the junkyard. But it'll take precision. One mistake, and it could all fall apart. We've come too far to let that happen, Anna said. This is our chance to break them for good. The plan was set in motion. Using the Bureau's intelligence, Anna and Warren devised a multi-pronged assault that combined the town's resources with federal support. The operation would rely on careful timing, coordination, and the element of surprise. Anna spent the night preparing, sharpening her weapons and reviewing the layout of the mill. Her father found her in the barn, his presence quiet but comforting. You sure about this? John asked, leaning against a post. I don't have a choice, Anna said without looking up. You always have a choice, John replied gently. Just make sure you're doing this for the right reasons, not just because you think you have to. Anna paused, her hand resting on the hilt of her knife. I'm doing this for you, for this town, for the people who can't fight back. That's reason enough. John nodded, though his worry lingered in his eyes. Just come back safe. Anna. The next night, under the cover of darkness, the convoy set out for the mill. The trucks moved silently along the back roads, their headlights off to avoid detection. Anna rode in the lead vehicle, her senses on high alert. Jamie sat beside her, his hands gripping the edge of his seat. You ready? Anna asked, her voice calm despite the tension. Jamie exhaled slowly. Not really, but I'll follow your lead. That's all I need, Anna said with a faint smile. When they arrived at the mill, the team split into two groups. Anna, Jamie, and a few volunteers would handle the initial infiltration, creating distractions to draw the Reapers out. Meanwhile, Warren and his agents would flank the building, cutting off escape routes and securing the perimeter. The mill was a hulking structure, its rusted frame silhouetted against the night sky. Dim lights glowed in the windows, and the faint sound of voices carried through the air. Anna crouched behind a pile of debris, her sharp eyes scanning the area. She spotted a cluster of motorcycles parked near the entrance, their insignias gleaming in the moonlight. Looks like most of them are inside. She whispered to Jamie, We'll draw them out, then let Warren's team handle the rest. Jamie nodded, his grip tightening on the slingshot in his hands. The first explosion shattered the silence, a carefully placed charge detonating near the motorcycles. The blast sent metal fragments flying, and the roar of flames illuminated the night. The Reapers poured out of the mill, shouting and scrambling to assess the situation. Anna and her team moved swiftly, using the confusion to their advantage. Anna's crossbow hissed as she fired bolts into the chaos, targeting tires and disabling vehicles. Jamie and the others launched smoke grenades, creating a thick haze that disoriented the bikers. Move. Secure the exits, Anna shouted into her radio, her voice cutting through the noise. Inside the mill, the Reapers' leadership was scrambling. Maddox's replacement, a towering man named Briggs, was barking orders, his voice echoing through the cavernous space. Find them. Take them out, Briggs roared, slamming his fist on a table. Anna slipped into the building through a side entrance, her movements silent and deliberate. She could hear Briggs shouting nearby, his fury palpable. She found him in a makeshift office, surrounded by maps and weapons. His eyes widened in recognition as she stepped into the room. Ghost, Briggs sneered, his hand reaching for the shotgun on the table. I've heard about you. You should have stayed out of Mill Creek, Anna said coldly. Briggs laughed darkly. And missed the chance to crush a legend? Not a chance. He lunged for the shotgun, but Anna was faster. She fired a bolt that struck the weapon, knocking it from his grasp. Briggs roared in anger, charging at her with brute force. Anna sidestepped, driving her knee into his ribs and slamming him into the wall. Briggs swung wildly, his fists grazing her shoulder, but she countered with a precise strike to his temple. The fight was brutal, the room a blur of movement and sound, but Anna's precision and training gave her the edge. In a final blow, she swept Briggs' legs out from under him, pinning him to the ground. "You lose," Anna said, her voice cold as steel. By the time the dust settled, the mill was secure. Warren's team had apprehended the remaining Reapers, their weapons confiscated and their vehicles destroyed. Anna stood outside the mill, her body bruised but her resolve unbroken. Jamie approached, his face a mix of exhaustion and relief. "We did it," he said quietly. Anna nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. For now, the Reapers had been dealt another devastating blow, but Anna knew the fight wasn't over. Still, as she stood under the fading stars, she felt a glimmer of hope. Mill Creek had proven its strength once again, and Anna would make sure that strength endured, no matter what came next. The mill stood silent in the early hours of the morning, its rusted frame now a graveyard for the Iron Reaper's ambitions. Trucks and squad cars lined the perimeter as Warren's team and local deputies finished clearing the site. The Reapers who hadn't fled were in handcuffs, and their stockpile of weapons was confiscated. Anna leaned against the side of her truck, her body aching from the fight. Her knuckles were bruised. Her shoulder throbbed from a near miss during her confrontation with Briggs, but the adrenaline still lingered. She watched as the last of the bikers were loaded into the waiting vehicles, their snarls of defiance now hollow. Jamie approached, a bottle of water in his hand. "You okay?" he asked, his voice tinged with concern. "I'm fine," Anna said, taking the bottle. "It's Briggs I'm worried about. He's too dangerous to leave in a holding cell." "He's not going anywhere," Agent Warren said, joining them. His suit jacket was gone, replaced by a tactical vest, and his face was grim but satisfied. "Briggs will be transferred to a secure federal facility by the end of the day. He won't be a problem for Mill Creek anymore." Anna nodded, though the tension in her shoulders didn't ease. "And the rest of them? The ones who got away? They'll regroup," Warren admitted. "But we've cut their numbers and resources in half. It'll take time for them to recover. And when they do, we'll be watching." The ride back to Mill Creek was quieter than the ride out. Jamie sat beside Anna in the truck, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. The triumph of the night's mission was overshadowed by exhaustion and the sobering reality that the fight wasn't over. "You think they'll come back?" Jamie asked, breaking the silence. Anna's grip tightened on the wheel. "They'll try," she said, "but we're stronger now. They know that." By the time they arrived in town, the first light of dawn was creeping over the horizon. The townspeople were already waiting in the square, their faces anxious but hopeful. When they saw Anna and her team return, a ripple of relief spread through the crowd. Clara hurried forward, her sharp eyes scanning Anna for injuries. "Did you get them?" she asked. "We got enough," Anna replied. "Briggs is in custody, and their base is destroyed. The Reapers are scattered for now, but this isn't over." Wyatt stepped forward, his hand resting on the holster at his hip. "You've bought us time, Anna. That's more than anyone else has done." Over the next few days, the town worked to rebuild its defenses and recover from the strain of constant vigilance. Volunteers repaired barricades, patrolled the outskirts, and reinforced key points around Mill Creek. But Anna's focus was on the bigger picture. She spent hours at the community hall with Warren, poring over intelligence reports and maps. Together, they identified the remaining strongholds of the Iron Reapers and devised plans to dismantle their network piece by piece. "This can't all fall on you," Warren said during one late-night session. "You've done more than enough for this town. Let us take it from here." Anna shook her head, her gaze fixed on the map in front of her. "The Reapers came after Mill Creek because of me. I'm not walking away until they're finished." Jamie, meanwhile, found himself stepping into a leadership role he never expected. With Anna focused on the larger battle, he took charge of organizing the town's defenses and training new volunteers. His confidence grew with each passing day, and the people of Mill Creek began to see him as a reliable leader. One evening, as Jamie was going over plans for the next patrol rotation, Anna approached him. "You've been busy," she said, her tone lighter than usual. Jamie shrugged, though there was a hint of pride in his expression. Someone has to keep things running while you're off saving the world. Anna smirked faintly. You're doing good work. Jamie, the town needs people like you. Jamie looked at her, his expression serious. The town needs people like us. You started this fight, but we're all in it now. You're not alone anymore. The words hit Anna harder than she expected. For years, she had carried the weight of every fight on her shoulders. But now, for the first time, she realized she didn't have to. The following week, Anna and Warren's team launched a coordinated series of operations against the Iron Reaper's remaining chapters. Using the intelligence gathered from the mill and captured members, they targeted supply lines, safe houses, and recruitment hubs. The raids were brutal but effective, dismantling the gang's network piece by piece. Each victory brought Mill Creek closer to safety, but it also brought Anna closer to a reckoning with her past. One night, as she sat alone on the farmhouse porch, Anna found herself staring at the stars, her mind filled with memories of the life she had left behind, the battles she had fought, the people she had lost, and the choices she had made all seemed to converge in that moment. Her father stepped outside, his presence a quiet comfort as he sat beside her. You've been quiet, John said, more than usual. Just thinking, Anna replied. About what? Anna hesitated, then sighed. About what happens next. The Reapers are on the ropes. But this isn't just about them. It's about me. About the person I used to be. John studied her, his expression thoughtful. The person you used to be is the reason this town is still standing. Don't forget that. Anna nodded, though the weight in her chest didn't lift. I just want it to be over. It will be, John said, because you won't stop until it is. As the stars blinked above them, Anna resolved to see the fight through to the end. The Iron Reapers had started this war, but she would finish it, not just for Mill Creek, but for herself. The shadows of her past had loomed over her for too long. It was time to face them, once and for all. The calm that settled over Mill Creek was deceptive. Though the Iron Reapers were in disarray after the raids, Anna knew their absence wasn't permanent. Desperation made people dangerous, and the Reapers had yet to make their final move. As the days turned into weeks, Mill Creek focused on rebuilding. Repairs to fences and buildings were completed. The townspeople grew more confident in their defenses, and for a moment, it seemed like life might return to normal. But Anna couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. She spent most nights on the porch, scanning the horizon for movement. The cool air carried the faint scent of hay, a reminder of the life she had fought so hard to protect. But her restlessness grew with each passing day, fueled by the nagging thought that the Reapers were biding their time. Her fears were confirmed one evening when Agent Warren arrived unannounced at the farmhouse. His expression grim. We've intercepted chatter, he said, stepping out of his vehicle. The Reapers are planning a final assault on Mill Creek. This isn't just retaliation, it's about reclaiming control. Anna's jaw tightened as she absorbed the news. When? Soon, Warren replied. We don't have an exact timeline, but they're rallying their remaining forces. This will be their last stand. The next day, Anna gathered the townspeople in the square. The crowd was tense, their faces pale as she relayed Warren's warning. They're coming back, Anna said, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. This time, they'll throw everything they have at us. But we've proven that we can stand against them. We've fought together before, and we'll do it again. The crowd murmured anxiously, but Clara stepped forward, her voice cutting through the unease. Anna's right. We've faced them before, and we came out stronger. This town won't back down. Wyatt added his support, standing beside Anna. We'll hold the line, he said firmly, no matter what it takes. Preparations began immediately. Anna and Jamie worked tirelessly to strengthen the town's defenses, setting up barricades and reinforcing weak points. The Bureau deployed a small team to assist, positioning agents at key locations around Mill Creek. Despite the tension, Anna felt a flicker of pride as she watched the townspeople come together. Jamie had taken charge of training the volunteers, his confidence and leadership inspiring others to follow his lead. Clara coordinated supplies and communications, ensuring that every corner of the town was prepared. But as the day of reckoning approached, Anna couldn't ignore the weight of her own doubts. One evening, as she patrolled the outskirts of town, Jamie joined her, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. "You've been quiet," he said, falling into step beside her. "Just thinking," Anna replied, her tone distracted. "About the Reapers?" "About everything," she admitted. "The Reapers, this town, my past, all of it." Jamie hesitated, then asked, "Do you ever wonder what life would have been like if you hadn't left bounty hunting?" Anna stopped, her gaze fixed on the distant hills. "All the time," she said, "but that life cost me more than I was willing to give. I thought leaving it behind would keep me safe, but it didn't. The past has a way of finding you, no matter how far you run." Jamie nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Do you regret coming back?" Anna looked at him, her sharp eyes softening. "No. If I hadn't come back, this town wouldn't have stood a chance, and neither would you." The night before the expected attack, Anna gathered her core team at the community hall for one final briefing. "They'll hit us hard," she said, pointing to the map spread across the table. "But they're desperate, and desperation leads to mistakes. We'll use that against them." Warren nodded. "We've positioned agents at key entry points. If they try to breach the town, we'll force them into a bottleneck." Jamie spoke up, his voice steady. "The volunteers are ready. They know the plan, and they're committed." "Good," Anna said, "because when the Reapers come, we won't just defend this town. We'll end this once and for all." The hours leading up to the attack were agonizingly slow. Anna stood on the porch of the farmhouse, her rifle slung over her shoulder as she watched the horizon. The faint sound of cicadas filled the air, a deceptively peaceful backdrop to the storm brewing just beyond the hills. John joined her, his presence grounding her in the moment. "You've done everything you can," he said quietly. "I hope it's enough," Anna replied. "It will be," John said, "because you've given this town something the Reapers can't take away: hope." The attack began just before dawn. The low rumble of engines echoed through the valley, growing louder with each passing second. Anna stood at the main barricade, her heart pounding as the headlights of dozens of motorcycles pierced the darkness. The Reapers rode in formation, their numbers greater than expected. At their head was a figure Anna didn't recognize, a tall, muscular man with a grim expression and the unmistakable authority of a leader. "That must be Maddox's replacement," Warren said, stepping up beside her. Anna's eyes narrowed. "Then he's our target." As the Reapers approached the barricades, the first wave of traps was triggered. Explosions erupted along the road, scattering debris and forcing the bikers to swerve. Smoke grenades deployed, creating a thick haze that disoriented the attackers. "Hold your positions," Anna shouted into her radio, her voice cutting through the chaos. The townspeople held their ground, firing warning shots to keep the Reapers at bay. Warren's agents moved with precision, taking out key targets and disrupting the gang's formation. Amid the chaos, Anna spotted the new leader shouting orders, his voice carrying above the din. She moved swiftly, weaving through the battlefield with practiced ease. When she reached him, their eyes locked, and the world seemed to narrow to just the two of them. "You're the one causing all this trouble," the man growled, drawing a knife. Anna smirked. "You have no idea." The fight was brutal and relentless, their movements a blur of strikes and counters. But Anna's experience and precision gave her the upper hand. With a final, devastating blow, she disarmed him and sent him crashing to the ground. "This is over," Anna said, her voice cold. By sunrise, the battle was won. The Reapers' forces were decimated, their leader captured, and their threat to Mill Creek finally broken. The town stood united, its people stronger than ever. As Anna stood in the square, watching the sun rise over the hills, she felt a rare sense of peace. The shadows of her past had loomed over her for too long, but now they were finally beginning to lift. The fight was over. For Mill Creek, and for Anna, this was a new beginning. The morning sun cast a golden glow over Mill Creek, illuminating the aftermath of the Reapers' final stand. Smoke from the battlefield still lingered in the air, mixing with the scent of oil and gunpowder. The townspeople, weary but victorious, moved through the streets with quiet determination, tending to the wounded and repairing the damage. Anna stood at the edge of the square, her rifle slung over her shoulder and her sharp eyes scanning the horizon. Though the Reapers had been defeated, she couldn't let herself relax. Experience had taught her that peace was fragile, and she wasn't ready to let her guard down just yet. Jamie approached her, his face streaked with dirt but lit with a rare smile. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of relief and disbelief. Anna nodded, her expression softening. "We did." The victory hadn't come without a cost. Several volunteers had been injured during the battle, and though no lives were lost, the close calls weighed heavily on Anna's conscience. She visited each of the wounded, offering words of encouragement and gratitude. Clara, who had taken charge of organizing the town's medical supplies, met Anna outside the community hall. "They're tough," Clara said, gesturing toward the makeshift infirmary. "Tougher than they thought they could be." "They shouldn't have had to be," Anna replied, her voice tinged with guilt. Clara placed a hand on Anna's shoulder. "You gave them the strength to stand up for themselves. That's not something to feel guilty about." Anna didn't respond, but the weight in her chest didn't lift. As the day wore on, Agent Warren and his team began rounding up the remaining Reapers who had been captured during the battle. The gang's new leader, a man who had arrogantly declared himself Crusher, sat in the back of a Bureau SUV, his hands cuffed and his expression sullen. Warren approached Anna as she stood near the barricades. "We'll be transporting him and the others to a secure facility by the end of the day," he said. "You've done more damage to the Reapers in a few weeks than we've managed in years." Anna nodded, though her expression remained guarded. "They'll regroup eventually. Someone always does." "Maybe," Warren said, "but you've given this town breathing room, and that's not nothing." Anna glanced at him, her sharp eyes narrowing. "Breathing room isn't enough. If the Reapers come back, they need to know they'll have nothing left to fight for." That evening, Anna gathered the townspeople in the square for one final meeting. The battle had been won, but she knew the scars it had left behind would take time to heal. "You've proven something incredible," Anna said, her voice carrying over the quiet crowd. "You've shown that this town isn't just a place, it's a community. You stood together, you fought together, and you proved that fear doesn't control us." The crowd murmured in agreement, their pride evident despite their exhaustion. "But the fight isn't just about the Reapers," Anna continued. "It's about protecting what we've built here. It's about making sure no one ever takes this from us again." Wyatt stepped forward, his presence steady and reassuring. "We'll keep our defenses strong," he said, "and we'll stay vigilant." But Anna's right. What we've done here isn't just about survival. It's about standing up for what's ours. The crowd erupted into quiet applause, their resolve stronger than ever. Later that night, Anna returned to the farmhouse, her steps heavy as she climbed the porch. She found her father sitting in his usual spot, a mug of coffee in his hands and a warm smile on his face. "You've done something special, Anna," John said as she sat beside him. "Something necessary," Anna replied. John nodded. "That's the kind of thing that changes people. You've given this town a future. Don't forget that." Anna looked out at the fields, the moonlight casting a serene glow over the landscape. For the first time in weeks, the tension in her chest began to ease. "I won't," she said softly. The next day, as the town began to rebuild in earnest, Anna found herself in the barn, going through the supplies and weapons that had been gathered during the conflict. Jamie joined her, his movements quieter than usual. "What's on your mind?" Anna asked without looking up. Jamie hesitated, then said, "Do you think they'll ever really leave us alone?" Anna paused, her hands stilling over the crossbow she was cleaning. "No," she said honestly. "Not completely, but that doesn't mean we stop fighting." Jamie nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You think you'll ever stop fighting?" Anna smiled faintly. "Maybe someday, but for now, I'll fight for as long as I have to." As the days turned into weeks, Mill Creek began to recover. The scars of the Reapers' attacks remained, but the town's spirit was stronger than ever. The people had proven to themselves and to the world that they were capable of standing up to even the darkest of threats. And Anna, though still haunted by the shadows of her past, found solace in the strength of the community she had helped protect. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to hope. Hope that Mill Creek would thrive. Hope that her fight had made a difference. And hope that, someday, the battle she fought wouldn't define her, but the peace she helped create would. The following weeks brought a tentative peace to Mill Creek. The Iron Reaper's defeat had sent ripples through the criminal network, leaving the gang fractured and leaderless, with most of their high-ranking members either captured or fleeing to avoid the Bureau. The Reaper's grip on the region was broken. The townspeople, once paralyzed by fear, began to reclaim their lives. Shops reopened, children played in the streets, and the sound of laughter replaced the constant hum of anxiety. Yet, even in this newfound calm, Anna couldn't allow herself to relax completely. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Anna stood on the farmhouse porch, her gaze fixed on the distant hills. The golden light bathed the fields, but her sharp eyes scanned for movement, her instincts still on high alert. Jamie approached quietly, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You're still watching," he said, handing her one of the mugs. "It's a hard habit to break," Anna admitted, taking a sip. "You think they'll come back?" Anna hesitated, her expression thoughtful. "Maybe not the Reapers. At least not anytime soon. But trouble always finds a way." Jamie leaned against the railing, his posture more relaxed than hers. "If it does, we'll be ready." Anna glanced at him, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "You've come a long way." Jamie shrugged, but there was pride in his voice. "Had a good teacher." The following day, Anna joined Clara in town to help with the last of the repairs to the community hall. The building had been a hub of activity during the Reapers' attacks, serving as a command center and shelter. Now, it was returning to its original purpose as a place for gatherings and celebrations. As they worked, Clara glanced at Anna. "You've been quieter lately," she said. Anna nodded, wiping sweat from her brow. "Just thinking about what comes next." Clara leaned on her hammer, her expression serious. "What do you mean?" Anna hesitated. "I've spent so much time fighting. I don't know what life looks like without it. Now that things are settling down, I'm wondering if it's time for me to move on." Clara's brow furrowed. "Move on? You mean leave Mill Creek?" "Maybe," Anna said. "This town is stronger now. You've proven that you can handle yourselves. Maybe it's time I let you." Clara shook her head firmly. "Don't even think about it. Anna, you've done more for this town than anyone else, and we're not about to let you go." That evening, as Anna walked back to the farm, she found herself lost in thought. Mill Creek had become a home she never expected to find, but her restless spirit pulled at her. The idea of staying, of settling down, felt both comforting and foreign. Her father was waiting for her on the porch, a quiet smile on his face as she approached. "You're thinking about leaving," he said, his voice calm. Anna stopped in her tracks, her surprise evident. "How did you know?" John chuckled. "You've been restless since the Reapers were defeated. You've got that look in your eye, the same one you had when you left all those years ago." Anna sat beside him, her shoulders slumping slightly. "I don't know, Dad. Part of me thinks I've done everything I can here, but another part of me wonders if leaving is running away again." John placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're not running away this time. You've built something here. Help these people find their strength. Whether you stay or go, that won't change." A few days later, Wyatt called a meeting at the community hall to discuss the town's long-term plans. Anna, Clara, Jamie, and other key figures gathered to talk about maintaining defenses, ensuring safety, and rebuilding the local economy. As the meeting progressed, Anna found herself observing more than speaking. Jamie stepped into the role of organizer with ease, fielding questions and delegating tasks. Clara provided insights on logistics, while Wyatt offered his law enforcement expertise. For the first time, Anna felt a sense of peace, not because the town no longer needed her, but because they were capable of standing on their own. That night, Anna returned to the barn, her mind made up. She began packing her gear, carefully stowing away the weapons and tools that had defined so much of her life. Each item she placed in the bag felt like a step toward closure. Jamie found her there, his expression confused. "You're leaving, aren't you?" Anna turned to face him, her expression soft. It's time. Jamie, this town doesn't need me the way it did before. Jamie frowned. That's not true. We'll always need you. Anna smiled faintly. You don't. Jamie, not like you think. You've grown into a leader. The town looks to you now. You're ready for this. Jamie looked down. His emotions conflicted. It's going to feel different without you here. It's supposed to, Anna said, but different doesn't mean worse. It just means change. On the morning of her departure, the townspeople gathered to see her off. Clara hugged her tightly, tears glistening in her eyes. Wyatt shook her hand, his usual stoic demeanor softening into a smile. You'll always have a place here, Wyatt said. I know, Anna replied. Jamie was the last to say goodbye, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you, Anna, for everything. You don't need to thank me, Anna said. Just take care of this place. And yourself. As Anna drove away from Mill Creek, the sun rising in her rearview mirror, she felt a mixture of sadness and hope. She didn't know where the road would take her, but for the first time in years, she felt free, not from responsibility, but from the weight of running. Mill Creek would always be a part of her, just as she had become a part of its story. And as she disappeared into the horizon, she carried with her the knowledge that she had made a difference. The Iron Reapers were gone. The town was safe, and Anna Turner was finally at peace. Anna's departure left Mill Creek in capable hands. Jamie, Clara, Wyatt, and the rest of the townspeople had taken the lessons she imparted and continued to build a stronger, more united community. The farm stood as a symbol of resilience, the fields thriving under John Turner's care, and the peaceful hum of daily life returning to the town. But peace, as Anna had often reminded herself, was fragile. 2 months after Anna's departure, Jamie was leading a routine patrol along the outskirts of town. The air was crisp, and the early morning sun cast long shadows over the fields. As he rounded a bend in the road, something caught his eye, a rusted black motorcycle parked haphazardly near the tree line. Jamie's heart sank. The Iron Reaper's emblem was unmistakable, painted in faded white on the bike's side. He immediately radioed Wyatt. Sheriff, we've got a problem. There's a Reaper's bike on the East Road. No sign of the rider yet. Stay put, Wyatt ordered. I'll send backup. But Jamie couldn't help himself. His grip tightened on the rifle slung over his shoulder as he approached the bike cautiously, scanning the area for movement. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the rustling of leaves in the breeze. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Nice place you've got here. Jamie spun around, his heart pounding as a figure emerged from the shadows. The man was tall and broad, his leather jacket adorned with the unmistakable Reaper's patch. His face was scarred, his eyes cold and calculating. What do you want? Jamie demanded, leveling his rifle. The man smirked, raising his hands in mock surrender. Easy there, kid. I'm just here to deliver a message. From who? The man's smirk widened. Let's just say the Reapers aren't as finished as you think. Your little town's been making waves, and there are some folks who don't like that. Jamie reported the encounter to Wyatt, who wasted no time calling a town meeting. The community hall was packed with anxious faces as Wyatt stood at the front, relaying Jamie's story. This could mean nothing, Wyatt said, though his tone suggested he didn't believe that. But we need to be prepared in case it means everything. Clara stood up, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. We've handled them before, and we can do it again. The Reapers don't scare us anymore. But we can't get complacent, Wyatt warned. This might not be the same group we've dealt with before. It could be a splinter faction, or even someone else using their name to stir up trouble. The room buzzed with uneasy murmurs. Jamie, sitting near the front, clenched his fists. We need to find out who they are and what they want before they bring the fight to us. Wyatt nodded. Agreed. But this time, we'll approach it carefully. No mistakes. The next day, Jamie, Clara, and a few volunteers scouted the area where the bike had been found. They searched the woods, finding little evidence aside from a few cigarette butts and footprints leading deeper into the trees. This feels deliberate, Clara said, her eyes scanning the trail, like they wanted us to find the bike. Jamie frowned. They're testing us, seeing how we'll react. Then we don't give them the reaction they're expecting, Clara replied. Meanwhile, Wyatt reached out to Agent Warren, who had remained in the region following the initial defeat of the Reapers. Warren arrived within hours, his expression as grim as ever. I've heard whispers about a new group moving into the area, Warren said during a meeting at Wyatt's office. They're not the same Reapers you dealt with before, but they're trying to fill the power vacuum left behind. If they succeed, they'll be just as dangerous, if not worse. Wyatt leaned back in his chair, his brow furrowed. What do we know about them? Not much yet, Warren admitted, but they've been recruiting heavily, targeting disillusioned members of the old Reapers chapters. They're calling themselves the Iron Wraiths. Jamie, who had been listening from the corner of the room, stepped forward. How do we stop them before they take root? Warren's eyes narrowed. We get ahead of them, find their leaders, disrupt their recruitment, and make it clear that Mill Creek isn't a place they can claim. The next few weeks were tense as Mill Creek prepared for a potential confrontation. Volunteers patrolled the outskirts of town day and night, while Warren and Wyatt coordinated intelligence efforts. Clara worked tirelessly to keep morale high, organizing meals and gatherings to remind the townspeople of their strength and unity. But Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something. The Iron Wraiths were too quiet, too calculated. It reminded him of the calm before a storm, a feeling he knew all too well. One night, as Jamie stood watch at the East Road, he noticed movement in the distance. A lone figure was walking toward him, illuminated by the pale moonlight. He raised his rifle, his heart racing as the figure came into focus. It was Anna. Jamie lowered his weapon, his shock evident. Anna, what are you doing here? Anna stepped closer, her expression calm but resolute. I heard about the Wraiths, she said simply. Figured you could use some help. Jamie blinked, still trying to process her sudden appearance. How did you? Warren called me, Anna said, cutting him off. Said things were heating up. I couldn't just sit back and ignore it. Jamie's shock turned to relief as he nodded. It's good to see you. It's good to be back, Anna replied, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Let's end this before it begins. The return of Anna Turner to Mill Creek reignited the town's determination. With her sharp instincts and unwavering resolve, she quickly integrated herself back into the efforts to protect the community. The Iron Wraiths thought they were moving into a vulnerable town, but they didn't know what or who was waiting for them. For Anna, the fight wasn't just about Mill Creek anymore. It was about ensuring that no one else would have to live in fear of groups like the Reapers or the Wraiths. The storm was coming, but Mill Creek was ready, and this time, Anna would make sure it was the last one they ever faced. Anna's return to Mill Creek brought a renewed sense of strength and determination to the town. Her presence reminded the community of everything they had overcome, and that they were capable of defeating any threat that came their way. But as the Iron Wraiths loomed closer, the stakes felt higher than ever. The Wraiths weren't just a splinter group of the Iron Reapers. They were something darker, more ruthless. They thrived on chaos, their attacks calculated to create fear and break spirits. For them, Mill Creek was the ultimate prize, a symbol of defiance that they wanted to destroy. Anna wouldn't let that happen. The first signs of the Wraiths' arrival came one foggy evening. A lookout stationed on the eastern ridge spotted movement, dozens of motorcycles moving like shadows through the mist. The signal was sent to the town, and within minutes, the defenses were activated. The streets of Mill Creek were quiet, but every house, every barricade, and every hidden vantage point was manned and ready. Anna stood at the central barricade, her crossbow slung across her back and her sharp eyes scanning the horizon. Jamie was beside her, his rifle in hand. You ready for this? Anna asked. Jamie nodded, though his grip on the rifle betrayed his nerves. As ready as I'll ever be. Anna placed a hand on his shoulder. Stick to the plan. We've got this. The Wraiths approached in formation, their headlights cutting through the fog. At their center was a towering figure with a black helmet and a crimson patch on his jacket, a man known only as Grave, the Wraiths' enigmatic leader. Grave raised a hand, and the bike slowed to a crawl. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of engines. People of Mill Creek, Grave's voice boomed, amplified by a small speaker. You've made a name for yourselves. Resilient, defiant. But today, that ends. Today, you learn what happens when you cross the Iron Wraiths. Anna stepped forward, her voice calm but cutting. You think you can scare us? You're just another gang trying to take what doesn't belong to you. But you're not the first. And you won't be the last. Grave tilted his head, his helmet reflecting the dim light. Brave words. Let's see if you can back them up. He signaled, and the Wraiths surged forward. The battle erupted with ferocity. The Wraiths attacked in waves, their sheer numbers threatening to overwhelm the town's defenses. But Anna and her team had anticipated their tactics, and every move the Wraiths made was met with calculated resistance. Barricades forced the bikers into narrow choke points, where defenders rained down suppressive fire and flashbangs. Smoke grenades created confusion, giving the townspeople time to regroup and counterattack. Anna moved like a shadow through the chaos, her crossbow taking down key targets with precision. Jamie and Clara coordinated the volunteers, their voices cutting through the noise as they directed the defense. The Wraith's assault was relentless, but Mill Creek's unity proved stronger. As the battle raged, Anna's focus turned to Grave. She spotted him near the center of the chaos, directing his men with cold efficiency. He moved with purpose, his presence commanding and unshakable. Anna knew she had to take him down to break the Wraith's momentum. She signaled to Jamie, "Cover me. I'm going after him." Jamie's eyes widened. "Anna, that's suicide." "I'll be fine," Anna said firmly. "Just keep them off my back." Anna weaved through the battlefield, her movements swift and calculated. She took down two bikers who tried to block her path, her strikes precise and devastating. As she closed in on Grave, he turned to face her, his helmet tilting slightly as if in recognition. "So," Grave said, his voice calm, "you're the infamous Ghost." Anna raised her crossbow, her voice steady. "And you're just another thug who doesn't know when to quit." Grave laughed, the sound cold and mechanical through his helmet. "Let's see if you live up to the legend." He lunged at her, swinging a heavy chain with brutal force. Anna dodged, her movements fluid as she countered with a slash from her knife. The fight was fierce, their strikes echoing through the chaos around them. Grave's strength was undeniable, but Anna's speed and precision gave her the edge. She anticipated his movements, exploiting every opening with ruthless efficiency. In a final, desperate move, Grave swung the chain in a wide arc, but Anna ducked beneath it and drove her knife into his side. Grave staggered, his grip on the chain faltering. "It's over," Anna said, her voice cold. Grave chuckled weakly, blood staining his jacket. "You think this ends with me?" "No," Anna replied, "but it starts with you." She disarmed him and stepped back as Warren and his agents moved in to secure him. The Wraiths, seeing their leader captured, began to retreat. Their ranks broke apart, the once unified force now scattered and disorganized. By dawn, the battle was over, and Mill Creek stood victorious once again. The townspeople emerged from their defenses, their faces weary but triumphant. The cost had been high, several volunteers were injured, and parts of the town had been damaged, but they had proven, once again, that Mill Creek could not be broken. As the sun rose, Anna stood at the edge of the square, her body aching but her spirit unyielding. Jamie approached, his face streaked with dirt but lit with a faint smile. "You did it," he said. "We did it," Anna corrected. Wyatt joined them, his voice steady. "The Wraiths won't recover from this. Not anytime soon." Anna nodded. "Good. Let this be the last time anyone tries to take this town." That evening, as the town began to rebuild, Anna sat on the farmhouse porch, the familiar sound of crickets filling the air. Her father joined her, his presence a quiet comfort. "You've done it again," John said. "Given this town another chance?" Anna smiled faintly. "It's what they deserve." "And what about you?" John asked. "What do you deserve?" Anna was silent for a moment, then said, "Maybe some peace." John nodded, his smile warm. "I think you've earned it." As the stars blinked into the night sky, Anna allowed herself a rare moment of hope. Mill Creek was safe. The Wraiths were defeated, and for the first time in a long time, Anna Turner felt like she could finally rest. The fight was over, and this time, it felt like the end.